Chair will bring to order the Monday, January 8th, 2018 board meeting. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board on any item not on today's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment. Whoops, do I have a comment? Yes, then I need you to speak and come. This is a recorded meeting. You need, are you, if you're here for a specific item, you need to wait to that item. And I see several people sitting in the audience, so maybe I should take a minute and let you understand the format. Every item is scheduled. We have to be within 15 minutes one way or the other of that scheduled time. So you may see us take recess just because of the time schedule. Once the item comes to us in front of us, we give the applicant and the owner, architect, designer, et cetera, the opportunity to present their project or to bring us up to date if it's a project we've already seen. Once I do that, then we'll call for public comment. That's when you come forward. You'll be limited to 2 minutes, and we do have a timer. Once public comment is made, then I'll close public comment, and it comes back to the board for discussion, generally for questions and comments and or action. So if you want to follow what we're doing, that's the procedure up on the wall over there, but that's the short version of how this works. So if you're here for a specific item, you'll just need to wait till that's called at the appropriate time. Okay, let's do a roll call. Kathleen, please.
Here we go. Chair Sweeney.
Here.
Vice Chair Miller will be in later. Jan Farrell will be in later. Lisa James.
Here.
Joseph Matisha. Robert Richards.
Here.
Jonathan Ziegler may not attend this meeting.
Okay, thank you. We do have 2 new board members who apparently may not have been technically sworn in at the city clerk's office, so they have to wait for that action, and then I'm assuming they will be here at our next meeting. Okay, let's go to approval of minutes. The first one we have is December 11th, 2017. Do I have a motion for approval? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Robert seconded. Okay, thank you. Let's go through it one at a time for any comments or corrections. Item number 1, 515 Bramer Ranch Lane. Item number 2, 1554 Alameda Padre Serra. Item number 3, 11 Via Alicia. Item number 4, 2839 Clinton Terrace. Item number 5, 1631 Shoreline Drive. Item number 6, 218 Las Ondas. Item number 7, 1563 Sycamore Canyon Road. Item number 8, 1224 Harbor Hills Drive. Item number 9, 285 Los Alturas Road. Hearing no comments, the chair will call for a vote.
Mr. Chair, I have 2 comments.
Oh, I'm
on
sorry.
2 of the items, we granted project design approval, but we did not make the NPO findings. So we'll need to make the NPO findings for item 4, 2839 Clinton Terrace, and item number 9, 285 Los Alturas Road. So
I'm sorry, what was that?
we need to
Item
make the
number 9.
NPO findings for item number 4 and item number 9.
Okay, do we need to do that now? We have a motion on the floor.
Yes,
Do I
we
need-
need to include those into the motion.
Okay.
So you can just restate the motion with the NPO findings.
Okay. So the maker of who approved the motion?
That was Motisha, and then Richard seconded the
Okay.
motion.
Joe, if you can just say that we want to include item number 4 and number 9.
to include item number 4 and number 9 in the NCO finding.
No, I need you to say for item number 4, you need to make the motion again with the NPO findings, and then Lisa made the motion for item number 9, so you both need to restate the motion with the NPO findings, please. So for item number 4, if you could restate the motion but include the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria findings.
Right, you do them separately?
They weren't made at the time the motion was made, and we can't have a PDA without the NPO findings.
I'm sorry. Please do.
We can't have you do it because he was the one who made the motion.
Motion
so-
being with, so you've got to just help him through it.
Item 4, project design approval with following comments.
I don't think his microphone's on.
With neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria, as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and also number 9.
I've made the motion for number 9.
Okay.
So I will amend the motion to say the project design approval for item 9 will include the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria met as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we need to do those as formal actions, correct? Okay, so on item number 4 that Joe just read, we need a second by,
Robert.
Yeah, I'll
Robert.
second it.
okay, so that's moved and seconded on that item. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Now to item number 9. Lisa read the motion. Robert, you seconded the motion,
All right, I'll second it again.
okay? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, does that take care of it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now we go to the motion that's on the floor, and that is for approval of the December 11th meeting minutes that were previously read. Without further comment, the chair requests a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, now let's go on to December 18th. Was that postponed? Do we have we do have a consent. Katie?
The minutes for the December 18th SFDB consent agenda are as follows. Item A, 154 Coronado Circle received approval of review after final changes. Item B, 715 Westwood Drive received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. And item C, 1347 Santa Teresita Drive received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, first and second, is there any other comments or questions regarding the December 18th consent calendar? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Let's go to this morning, January 8th. Katie?
The minutes for the January 8th SFDB consent agenda are as follows. Item A, 110 Via del Cielo received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item B, 929 Sima Linda Lane received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. And item C, 3734 Cedar Vista received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings.
Okay, thank you. Is there any comments or questions concerning the consent for this morning, January 8th? Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. Katie, announcements.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So I just wanted to make a quick announcement. As everyone's aware, we have 2 new board members. Jan Farrell is going to be the member of the public at large, and Jonathan Ziegler has professional qualifications. So once they're sworn in, they'll be able to sit on the board. Hopefully that'll be by next meeting. And then we had an item that was noticed for today's hearing, 430 Stanley Drive. The applicant and the homeowner has since wished to withdraw the project, and they're not going to be pursuing that. So that item is not on today's agenda, and it's not scheduled for any agenda.
Okay, thank you. Katie, just one additional question. Mr. Ziegler, his professional qualifications is he a landscape person or architect? What?
I believe he's an architect.
Architect, okay, thank you. Okay, any other announcements?
I said they're pulling the project, so there will be.
Okay, thank you. Katie, just a couple of other tentative. One is at some point in the next meeting or so, Katie will schedule public notice the annual voting of chair, vice chair for the board. So just,
The elections will be at our next meeting.
and then also, Katie informed me that at some point in either this month or the beginning of next month, staff does intend to come to us with an update on the ADU ordinance that's moving through the process. Okay, any other announcements, questions, et cetera?
Oh, sorry, one last announcement. The appeal for 1625 Overlook Lane was withdrawn, so that project is no longer being pursued as an appeal.
Thank you. And then subcommittee reports. I don't think we have a subcommittee at this point on anything. So let's go to item number 1, 820 Centinela Lane. Somewhere. Okay, let's have Robert read it. Hi, welcome.
Thanks.
If you could introduce yourself, please. Got to be green. There you go. Is that one on? There you go. Okay.
David Mendrow, architect.
Yep.
Stacy Fawcett, landscape architect.
Mary Compton, one of the owners.
Patrick Berg, architect.
Thank you. This is here for final approval. Project must comply with the staff hearing officer resolution number 025-17 and was last reviewed August 21st, 2017. And before you get started, I'm going to have Mr. Richards read the actions of that 21st meeting.
All right, the following comments were made. The board appreciated that the applicant reduced the amount of earth removed while still achieving the needed grading. The board appreciated how the applicant handled the lighting and landscaping. The board's approval is subject to the standard short-term construction-related conditions dated August 21st, 2017. The board made the finding that the project met the Hillside Design District and sloped lot findings criteria as stated in subsection 22.69.050.b of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code. The board made the findings that the project met the grading findings criteria as stated in subsection 22.69.050.c of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code. The board made the finding that the project met the vegetation removal findings criteria as stated in subsection 22.69.050.d of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code. The board made the finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City Municipal Code with positive comments regarding the project's consistency and appearance, neighborhood compatibility, quality of architecture regarding the project's consistency and appearance, neighborhood compatibility, quality of architecture and materials, landscaping, protection of public health, safety, and welfare, compliance with good neighborhood guidelines, and preservation of public views. The board found that the project complies with Staff Hearing Officer Resolution Number 24-17. The board recognized that the applicant proposes 49 cubic yards of export. The board recognized that the 163.5% FAR is unique to the site and acceptable in this specific case only. The proposal for non-reflective glass railings at a portion of the southwest and southeast portion of the first floor terrace is acceptable in this case only. The action was carried by Motisha, seconded by James. There were 4 people in favor, and I was absent that day. Richards was absent. Motion was carried.
Thank you. I can add that. Thank you. So if you could just bring us up to date, please?
Sure. Happy New Year. Well, basically, the project remains essentially unchanged, the design-wise, from when we last showed you. There's been no change in the project size, the project area, the configuration or the FAR. There's no change in the building heights, no change in the grading. Essentially, there's no changes to the exterior elevations with the exception of the area around the master bath, which we just did a minor reconfiguration of the windows in that area. We haven't increased the area of the windows. In fact, we've probably decreased the area of the glass a little bit in doing that. The materials, do we have the material board too? Have stayed essentially the same, with the exception we're going to ask to use a centered stone wall veneer in lieu of zinc metal wall veneer that we had shown last time. And as far as additional information that we have this time, we do now have a detail for the driveway gate, an address sign. We have a metal fence detail for a fence that's up near the master bedroom. We have exterior details. We have some HVAC enclosures to show you. And then we have much more detailed landscape and landscape lighting plans that Stacy will present.
Okay.
So
Thank
I thought
you.
I'd just page through it and show you those.
Since you're here for final, normally we go through every sheet.
Okay,
We're supposed to get some reasonable assurance that it looks like final set of drawings.
okay,
As an individual architect, given this set of drawings, it would probably take me 4 hours to do that, but
Yeah.
we're not going to do that today.
appreciate that.
We do have to, though, give some credence to the fact that it is a final set of drawings. So if you want to go through sheet by sheet, and then as we hit the sheets you've made changes on, let me know.
I'll do that, okay. Do you want to go ahead and turn them, or you want me to?
It's easier.
First few are just notes and specifications. The first place to stop is probably the site plan. So this is the site plan. The driveway, the site walls are basically the same. Probably the HVAC enclosures, there's one proposed here, there, here, and one with in the pool enclosure itself. And then the driveway gate that we'll show you is located here.
Okay. So this is 3.5 feet high. This is 601, it's 5 feet high. I can't, there's no indication how high those are.
So it's like, what we got, 4 or 5?
5 feet?
Again, the building heights haven't changed. We're well below the allowable building height. This is the sheet showing do you have the rendering? The driveway gate and address sign. So what we have proposed is a metal gate, like a louver gate, and it's sliding. The walls have the materials board. Yeah, I like the actual materials better here. So the side walls at the entry gate have this material here. And then this entry sign, there's a detail here for it, which is glass with an aluminum frame, and it's edge lit with a 2-watt LED light fixture.
The color of the gate is,
This color here, the dark gray?
and the bottom panel is solid?
Yes, yes. The bottom rail that it rides on is solid, yes.
Okay. Okay.
These are details for that. This is the fence detail where that does happen up at the master bedroom. We'll see it in the elevations. It matches the driveway gate. And the floor plan's essentially the same. The one change we did make is before we had more glass on either side here in the master, and we moved the window to the center and reduced it. And we also added some wall here and reduced this. But for the most part, everything's the same. Basement is relatively the same. The light fixtures are the same as what we proposed last time. Although we probably did, is this the driveway?
So
So
the-
we added this one for the driveway gate.
So the actual aperture opening is,
1 inch. These are the elevations, so probably the most significant change is where we had, it's a little hard for me to read upside down here. Is
You're
it-
looking for the master bathroom.
Well, no, I was going to say the centered stone. So this material, before we had the zinc, now we're proposing the centered stone on several walls, and I believe it's this one?
this one?
And this one?
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a couple more on the backside. Yeah. These are the same elevations flattened out as this. So back here on the backside. You see him, Patrick?
It's underneath the.
Yeah, underneath here, and there's one little section underneath the kitchen window, which probably is the next
That's
page.
another elevation.
Yeah, that was that one and then there. So, and again, those are all not visible from the public in any way.
So the bathroom, was that this one and this one?
Yeah, so before we had a window on either side of a wall, now we just have a window in the center. And again, it's reduced. Before, this was floor to
Okay,
ceiling.
and this is a solid Lisa class?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And these are showing the incorporation of the recessed blinds for all the windows.
Okay, is there anything in landscaping that we need to pay attention to?
The planting is detailed. We did have a meeting with Ann Marks at the fire department and reviewed the planting plan. So I have 3 stamped copies approved from her.
Okay.
So I figured you probably want one.
Yeah,
Pull up the microphone. Yeah.
Katie will take one of those, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
That's the irrigation that you're looking at there. Details. That's the planting. They recommended that we remove the existing acacia plants, so we did that. And
Okay,
added it in Opus. Landscape lighting.
Okay. Anything else? That's it?
Okay.
Okay, before we go to the board, the chair will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the public wishing to address this project? Katie, do we have any written communication?
No, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for any questions, and then we'll go to comments. Questions? This is here for final approval. There are no questions, let's go to comments.
I have a question.
Lisa?
Stacy, you said that the only changes were that there were additions to the landscape. Can you show us what the additions were?
The only change for the landscape was that the acacia was removed on the planting plan. And then
Is
I
that
believe
on
that's
the-
reflective on that plan,
Oops,
but it's also on the stamped fire department plan. So we changed
Back one.
the acacia to additional ceanothus and some other plants that were already on the plan. So we didn't introduce any new plants.
And that trellis item that shows up on the model?
Yeah, that was always there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Other comments?
No?
Okay, if there are no further comments, the chair would entertain a motion. This project is here for final approval. Okay,
The board would like to give this project final approval with, the board would like to give this project final approval, final design approval, with the following comments, that we find the centered stone wall veneer instead of zinc acceptable, and the new driveway gate with 2-watt LED is also fine. And this project, I have to do MPO findings, or we already did that?
right,
Okay.
right. That's your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Okay, there's a second to the motion. Katie, I'm looking to you. Did we cover everything we need? Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. You can go to the building department.
you
This
very
project
much.
will have a 10-day appeal period.
Here's this.
Give it to Katie.
Okay.
Thank you.
That goes, no.
Which one would you like? The close-
Yeah, I'll
the
take
close
this
one?
one, you can take the other two.
And then this is updated copy of the color.
If Lisa James needs our spot,
Oh, maybe she,
You're not
She
in
already-
a
she
commissioner
she already
spot,
left.
but there will be a.
She already left, so I don't know where she went.
Okay.
I'll show you, that would be great. Let's see, this is our set as well, right?
yeah, you can take that set.
Okay.
My work going.
Here, I'll grab mine.
All right.
Okay, we'll have to wait a minute until Lisa Turner returns because we don't have a quorum. She'll go park her car. Yep.
been quite a month, hasn't it? Between the fires and now the potential mud.
Okay, Lisa's back. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's proceed to item number 2, 1554 Alameda Padre Serra. We last saw this project on November 27th. Any action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. Findings are required as outlined in Santa Barbara Municipal Code 30.245, minor zoning exceptions, and Santa Barbara Municipal Code 30.140.110.E.2.A for the proposed additional hedge height allowances. Project was last reviewed on November 27, 2017. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Rochelle Malin from Rochelle Design. I'm the agent for the Crew Picas, the owners of 1554 Alameda Padre Sierra.
Okay, thank you. Katie, do you have some information to share with us, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I've handed out a packet to each of you for the minor zoning exception required findings. So in there, you'll find guidelines for specific minor zoning exception requests. So I know you wanted those available today. So
Thank
please give these back to me when you're done. And then I routed this project to Ann Marks in fire due to the recent events. We want to make sure everything was okay. So she said she took a look at the property and she didn't have a problem with the hedge from a defensible space standpoint if the following notes are added to the conditions of approval and noted on the plans. So if you do wish to approve the project today, whatever height that may be, she would like you to include that the hedges will be maintained to the property line at X amount height, no more than 3 feet deep, well irrigated and maintained free of dead wood year-round. The hedge on the west side of the property located along the driveway shall be maintained to ensure it does not encroach into the access drive for 1741 Paterna, and the hedge on the north side of the property shall have a 5-foot separation from the large pine tree to the top of the hedge to avoid creating ladder fuels to the pine. Okay?
Thank you. And then do you have comments on 2 items? One is, does our decision rest with the current property owners, or does our decision rest with the property?
So this decision runs with the property, and I know you had brought up the question earlier about privacy. You're not guaranteeing anyone's privacy. The guidelines say that to the best of your ability, you're taking that into consideration, that the project's aiming to do that. So
under the ordinance, we're not required to guarantee anybody's privacy
That's
views
correct.
one way or the other, either property. And
or private views from the property.
private views from the property, so we're not obligated to guarantee any of that.
That's correct.
And then secondly, the decision we make is to the property, not to the current owners.
Correct. So when evaluating the project, try and think about long-term when these property owners may not be there anymore.
Okay, so when these properties change hands, at whatever point in the future they might change hands, how does this decision travel to the new owner?
It'll be noted in the system.
Okay, so the
It'll be
new
kept
owner
on
would
file.
be notified that there is some,
Probably in a form of a parcel tag, like other modification requests,
so there'll be some notice to
conditions
future
on
owners.
file. Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, if you'll bring us up to date, please. We did have a site visit earlier this afternoon, so the 4 of us had an opportunity, and we thank the applicant and the adjacent neighbors for being able to go onto the properties and do our views. So if you
Did you need to read this?
up to date, what's that?
Did you need to read the
Oh, yeah,
last?
why don't we should read their last action before we have you start.
All right, the last action was to continue 2 weeks with the following comments. To provide a story pole with a colored flag at the top indicating the exact vertical feet at each major section of the hedges that are being requested to be either grown to or left at 14 feet. Action was taken by Sweeney, seconded by Motisha. There was 5 in favor. The motion was carried.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So now,
All right.
if you'll bring us up to date, please.
Okay, well, as you mentioned, you guys did come over for a site visit and to look at things firsthand. recap part of this is that, the property was purchased in 2009 by the Krupikas, and the hedges were in place at that time. If you were to go back to planning files that the city has, photographs the city has, here's one from when they were doing their pool. You can see the hedges are there. And there's multiple documents and references to show that those hedges were and have been that way for a long time. And what happened, to recap that, is November of 2016, there's a barking dog problem. Krupikas contacted the owner. Back and forth a couple of weeks and finally said, hey, get it taken care of. We're kind of running our patience. And he called back or sent a text, I believe it was, and said, well, what about your hedges? And here we are with the complaint. And so previously the hedge height was never a problem. But now it's become a problem because he's made it a problem. And I know part of the policy in the past has been sleeping dogs live with hedges in the city because it's been a big issue. And so our position is obviously this is a retaliatory act. It's not a legitimate concern. Mr. Fenton's had an opportunity 5 previous times. There have been design review hearings and noticing on this property during various improvements that have been made by the Krupikas. And I have those outlined in some of this packet here. You can see those notifications, the MST design reviews. And one of those design review hearings, part of the stipulations, conditions of approval, was to maintain the tall hedges that were there for privacy and screening. And even though that was a point of condition of approval, Mr. Fenton never said, hey, excuse me, I protest, I complain, I'm not happy with that. 5 times over all these 9 years. So I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out that he himself has a hedge that's a bamboo section that's over 5 feet taller than part of the hedge he's complaining about. There's a hedge on the adjacent property that even though on November 9th they cut it down, as it stands right now, it's well over 17 feet. But this hedge that's tall, quite a bit taller than Krupikas, wasn't complained about. This hedge and oleanders over here, which are taller than the Krupikas, which would be, if they were a view issue, would be part of the view problem. But they were not complained about, which leads me to go back to reaffirm that this was just a retaliatory action on Mr. Fenton's part. And when he represented that he had the view, of course, I showed the photo from his daughter's Facebook page, and you guys saw that he has quite a view from his second floor. I also wanted to show you this is from Google's map, and this shows his property here, where his orientation is more over 1548 APS. It's not over the Krupikas. So this is the Krupikas' house here. This is his house, and his living room is back here. You can see he has an L-shaped patio that wraps around here. And so that confirms part of our position of the retaliatory act again. If you take a look at this photograph, and as you saw, and I pointed out on our site walk today, he always has this bedroom shielded and screened. If there's a view you really want to see, why wouldn't you be looking out there on the view where you have a great view from? The first floor he doesn't have a fantastic view from. And when we come back around and we take a look at some of these things, as far as the neighbors go, I know that there was one neighbor that Mr. Fenton, he lobbied a few people to write in and support for him. Neighbor over here said she didn't think that the hedges should be allowed to be 14 feet. We're not asking for a 14-foot. I think you guys saw on your site walk that they pretty much maintain that hedge between 12 to 13 feet, and, with the growth pattern. They're not interested in a 14-foot hedge. And although she's complaining about it, supports that, she can't see their 14-foot hedge because her 18 to 19-foot hedge blocks their 14-foot hedge. Little ironic. When we go into, and then also the other point that I'd like to make, I know at our last hearing, the neighbor next door, Mr. Hendry's representative had come in here and said that they weren't in support of the 14-foot hedge height. Consequently, Mr. Dylan Chappelle, who's the architect for Mr. Hendry, called me, I think 2 days after our hearing, and said, well, it's not the 14-foot. They're more concerned about a root situation potentially in the future. They're planning on doing some improvements here. I'm going to do a property site wall. So we've come to an agreement. We sent that to him, and I actually delivered to Mr. Henry myself today. So we're trying to work on the root barrier issue, which the Krupikas are going to cooperate with. And that's going to be an issue whether the hedge is 8 feet or 9 feet tall or 12 feet tall. So we feel that we've resolved that, and as I said, Dylan confirmed he's been dealing with his house burned in the Ventura, the Thomas fire. So he's had his hands full. I was hoping to have a final agreement here, but otherwise, that's really what the issue was. He said it wasn't the height; it's the roots. So I just wanted to clarify that for you. And then, to kind of follow up on part of this is that if I go back to what was approved, or what the agreements were between the two parties, and Mr. Fenton clearly contacted Mr. Brian Sarvis, who is the previous owner of 1554 APS. And he sent a letter in, and it's in one of the copies of the package there, where he said that they had an agreement to maintain an 8-foot high hedge height and maintain it, trim it once a year. Well, you realize those hedges grow between 3 to 6 feet a year. So if he trimmed it once a year, by a majority of the year, it's going to be well over 10 feet, 11 feet. But the other point is that he said that, to preserve their harbor view. Now, what I did do is here is a direct line across through the Krupikas property. And unless there's been an earthquake that we didn't know about, and geologically everything's been reoriented in the last 9 years, the harbor view is over here. It's not directly through the Krupikas property. And when you look at the one photo that is from his daughter's Facebook that we did have, if you take a look at the photo, and there's a copy in the packet there, you see that here's the wharf, here's the harbor, and here's the roof at 1548 APS. It's this direction, which is, once again, this direction. And from the Google Maps, you see that this is going over their house. It's not through this narrow area, through the Krupikas. So that's really a false statement. The other thing that I'd like to point out is Mr. Sarvis would have had to have disclosed that during the marketing and selling of the property, and that was never disclosed. I have also one of the original appraisals from the house before it was ever sold, and you can see the hedge that is here to the east is actually taller than what it is today. And that also goes back to my point to try to prove that this was a retaliatory action and that there hasn't been an view issue with that hedge until someone made it a view issue. So I think Mr. Sarvis, I don't know if he's here today, but if he's watching, I think he needs to ask himself a serious question and think about his answer. Did you really have an agreement that you didn't disclose to my clients? Because if they had to realize and accept that they were going to live potentially in a fishbowl with all their neighbors looking down upon them, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have bought the property. Or maybe the real answer is that he was going to try and help out his old buddy, Mr. Fenton, by making a statement that maybe wasn't true. I don't know what that real answer is, but I think he's going to need to think about what that answer is. So in closing, what I'd like to go over, the city processes and complaint lines and design review, we're here for a purpose. And we know what those purposes are. Just to get back at somebody because they said, hey, shut your dog up. It's driving me crazy. It's barking day and night. Isn't one of the reasons that we're here. So I would like you to take a look at this and realize that part of the hedge at this point is a privacy issue. There's been intimidating actions. There's been unneighborly behavior. Somebody parks their trash cans on my client's property. They've done a variety of things that have been uncomfortable and not friendly and conducive. And so at this point in time, part of this hedge actually acts as a peacekeeping element for the neighbors, unfortunately. So that's what I'd like you guys to take a consideration. And the last thing I would like to add is that why they're not interested in having a 14-foot hedge, If you put a limitation on the hedge, that's fine, but I want to make sure we put a limitation that's comfortable, because what I don't want to have happen, because as you saw from your site walk today, they do maintain that hedge right around 12 feet. I don't want somebody to call up the complaint line when they go out and say, oh, it's 12 foot too. You know, so, and file a complaint and have this being an ongoing issue. So within reason, they do maintain it at 12 feet. They're comfortable with that. But they don't want a situation where somebody's going to go out there and nitpick and call the city every month, okay? And that's all that I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to comments and questions of the board, I do have two speakers, and I do have copies of written material that came to us at the last meeting, in which the item was canceled because of the fire evacuation issue. So Katie, the last time we received written information, I did get a letter, a lengthy letter from Fred and Gail Krupka. Did we get anything else?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And then I have two speakers. So if there's nothing else, can Mr. Krupka come up, please, and speak into, you can speak into this microphone. And because you're the applicants, you don't have the 2-minute requirement.
So while I'm practicing to keep it to 2 minutes, for not,
Keep it to 2 minutes.
Okay?
that'll be okay. My name is Gail Krupika. I'm the owner of 1554 APS. My husband and I have lived in Santa Barbara for 17 years, the last 9 of which at our current address. As the board saw during the site visit today, our neighbor, Mr. Fenton, has a direct view into our second story of our home. I have observed him staring down into my home on several occasions, this with the hedge at its current height. So it's horrifying to think of the hedge being cut down, whereas Mr. Fenton could look into not only the second floor, but the first floor of my home. I would truly be concerned about my privacy, my safety, and my ability to comfortably enjoy my home life with him staring in at me even more than he already does. Another particularly disturbing example happened when I was out gardening. Mr. Fenton lunged out at me from the bushes and said, "What are you doing, looking for rats?" And I was really shaken up by that, being jumped out at on my own property. And since then, I have felt that in order to stay safe, I really must avoid all contact with him. And that's a very stressful way to live your life. That behavior, along with his trespassing on our property, prompted my husband to report his threatening behavior to the police, so that if it was ever to escalate, there would be a record. Again, I would honestly feel personally threatened and endangered if the hedge was lower. Finally, with respect to Mr. Fenton's view, at the time we purchased our house, a zoning violation was issued to the seller for the height of the hedge. To start off our new neighbor relationship with the Fentons on the right foot, I asked the then Mrs. Fenton if the hedge height was a problem for the Fentons in any way. She told me absolutely not, that they had built their second story for the ocean view over the property next door to us at 1548 APS, and that our hedge had no impact whatsoever on their view. The first action on any view problem was 9 years later in retaliation for our notice to Mr. Fenton over his barking dog. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Fred Krupika, and I'm also the owner of 1554 APS, together with my wife. This issue began in 2016 when the Fenton's barking dog created a neighborhood nuisance. I approached Mr. Fenton with the issue. He became angry, dismissive, and retaliated by filing this action for the hedge dispute with the city. I have 3 comments regarding the proceedings and the issues to date. First, the hedge was a mature 11 to 13 feet, as we've shown by Michelle has already shown. For the 9 years that we've been there, it has been approximately the same height. The former Mrs. Fenton confirmed that our hedge had no impact whatsoever over their view. Mr. Fenton now claims that the hedge impacts the view, but he deliberately excluded other pictures and the ocean view pictures from the second floor. We've had 5 major permits for construction over the last 4 years that served notice to homeowners for comment, and the hedge was never an issue, either by Mr. Fenton or any of the other neighbors. Second, it is an alarming issue to see the letter submitted by the prior owner and seller, Mr. Brian Sarvis, regarding a once-a-year trimming agreement to 8 feet that Mr. Fenton confirmed at the November 27th hearing. The seller has potential legal liability for not disclosing the agreement to us before we purchased the property. I believe the seller is embittered and motivated to join the retaliation as he suffered a large reduction to his asking price and his original purchase price. My structural engineer found serious issues during the inspection phase before we closed on the property. Third, neighbors who submitted letters to the board are not now, nor have they ever been impacted by the hedges, as they also have hedges that are as tall, if not taller, than those on my property. The hedge height serves as a protective barrier to minimize escalation with Mr. Fenton. My wife's account as to the intimidation she feels for her safety and well-being is precisely why we submitted the MZE. No one should ever feel threatened in their own home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else to present? Okay. Then the chair is going to go to any other public comment. Katie?
No, Mr. Chair.
He's raising his hand back.
Okay, you need to give us a yellow slip if you'd like to speak, please.
Do we stay here or move?
Yeah, at every meeting, yes, please.
We get it.
Thank you.
So if you could speak at that microphone, please.
I want to address the retaliatory issue.
Okay, can I stop you there? This is not a court of law.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
And so our focus, as indicated by staff earlier in the meeting, is on the properties, not the personalities or the owners. So if you could stick to that subject, that would be most helpful. Thank
I
you.
just wanted to correct the timeline. This complaint was filed in November of 2016, long before there was any dog issues. I don't know why they brought that up. That's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask this guy a question?
Yes.
What height do you desire the hedge to be at? Would you like it to be down at 8 feet?
Well, it
Or
used
you-
to be between 8 and 10 feet. I don't know about hedges growing 3 to 6 feet a year. I've never seen that in my 27 years.
Stick to
Yeah.
the question.
So 8 to 10 feet?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you.
sure.
Okay. Any further comments? No public? Okay, then the chair is going to close public comment and bring it back to the board for our discussion. And we start with questions. Who has questions? Joe?
Is this complaint based on, I have two privacy issues right here. Privacy of the applicant, concerned that somebody looks at their back of their property, or is it a privacy issue of them seeing the property in back of them?
It's a combination of both. I do have pictures in a file.
No, I was trying to answer the question.
It's a combination of both.
Combination of both, okay. And was the call this, was the applicant who filed this, if the hedges are already a certain height, why do we need to?
Okay, you're asking the question I was going to ask.
Go ahead,
Essentially, The written document that we received says that the applicant is requesting for us to approve a hedge to 14 feet tall. Is that still the request?
Not technically, no.
Okay.
It's just that the MZE
Okay, I
allows
understand that, but the way the law works, as I understand it, and Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, every resident in this city can allow their hedges to grow in their side yards and backyards to 8 feet without anybody's approval. If they want it to grow beyond 8 feet, up to 12 feet, they have to get approval from city staff, correct, Katie?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything past 12 feet, be it 12 feet, 6 inches, 13 feet, whatever, has to be reviewed and approved by this board. So what you're asking, the reason you're here is you want, in some cases, at some point, some of this hedge to grow beyond 12 feet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think that answers your question, right, Joe?
Yes.
So it's between 12 and 14. The reason they're here is they wanted to allow it to grow past 12 feet.
Has it been approved to go up to 12 feet already?
What's that?
Has it been approved to grow to 12 feet?
No, it hasn't.
Okay,
So
so
the way the
currently
law
it has to be
reads,
at 8 feet.
the way the law reads is you can go to 8 feet without anybody's approval.
Sure.
If you want it to grow past that, then you have to either get approval from city staff up to 12 feet. If you want it to grow past 12 feet, then it has to come to this board. The reason this project is here is the applicant is asking to allow the hedge to grow above 12 feet.
Sure.
Whether it's 12 feet 6, 13 feet, 13.6, whatever, they're asking to allow it to grow above 12 feet.
Which requires our,
Which requires our review and approval. Okay?
And that's that cushion for
Okay, well,
trimming.
I just want to make clear because the document says 14 feet. Okay, other questions? I have a technical question. We have a couple of photographs. I think these are both yours. So I have a photograph of the front of the house showing this side hedge. But this photograph shows no pepper trees.
Yes.
And none here, and there's a screen here. This one, I think, reflects what we saw today on the site visit, so there is an artificial screen here and some pepper trees. So what's the date difference, do we know?
Well, yes, this is, I believe this is 2011. This is
Okay, so
photos
this is roughly
previous,
2011.
before one of their improvements.
Okay, and this is in theory 2016?
This is 2017.
17, sorry. Okay. And then just to be clear, so that
And this
we're-
is 2009.
Okay. And then just to be clear, so we understand, and again, like we did at the site visit today, we want to understand the hedges that we're making decisions on. So one is this hedge here, this hedge here, correct?
Correct.
Not this piece.
yes.
Well, this
That
would be,
piece?
this would be included just
Okay,
because
so
it
it's-
is over 8 feet.
Okay, so it's this hedge here, that hedge. This hedge is not subject of discussion.
Correct.
And nothing in the front is subject to discussion.
And this hedge back here on Fenton's
Okay,
property.
But that's not
Correct.
subject to this
None of these.
request. Okay, so the request is just to this group here. Okay.
And we're happy putting a 13-foot cap on that.
Okay, well, let's get to that in a minute.
I have
Other
a
questions?
different copy.
What's that?
I have a different copy of the plan. Can I please?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one I created just, you had reference for the hedges that immediately abut the property and their heights.
Okay. Okay, other questions?
Yes. I have a question, Mr. Chair. How, I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but over the 9 years, how much height was added to the residence?
It sits as it was. They did mostly cosmetic changes. They added a pool, they added a spa, they added the fire, the waterfalls, and they had the gate system down by the double garage underneath.
So the roof line
Is as it was.
As it was,
Back at, that was done, I want to say, in 2002, I do believe, by a previous owner.
Okay,
It's a different property, yeah.
another question. You said that the current height, when we were out there today, was between 12 and 13 feet.
Yes, the chalk on there was like 12'6" and about 12'9" on the 2-story poles that were there. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
How much
Joe.
has, in your opinion, since 2009, has the hedge grown in height?
Well, that's the interesting thing. That's why I have the one photo here. This hedge, if you look at the photos that I
Where
submitted.
is this fountain? Where is this fountain?
This is no longer there. That was part
I
of
was gonna
what you
say.
see on the MZE. There was a fountain that was right here, located right here, that was not permitted by the previous owner.
So here we're looking at an east hedge.
That you're
But
looking at
I don't want to
east
look at an
hedge.
east hedge. I want to look at a north hedge.
Okay, oh, this one here, I don't think that
That's what
there
I'm
is,
asking.
I don't know if there's
Okay,
too
that's
many
the question.
photographs.
Okay, let me ask the question again.
In here,
How-
you can barely see it.
Well, that one's
Approximately.
That one's not neighboring.
I know. Let me
One that's not neighboring the issue.
ask the question again. In your opinion, since 2009, how high has the hedge grown since the owners bought the house in 2009
Okay.
above what it is now?
I would say 0 because it was already that tall when they purchased the property. They maintain it at the height that you see here. And that was the height that it was when it was purchased. And that's reflected in the ZIR violation that was noted in
Joe,
2009.
I'm just asking one question. So this was 2011. That's all front of the house. And we're looking at massive tree behind, the stone pine tree. And this is east hedge.
East.
And this picture is,
Right in here. That's where that former fountain, that's when they were, this is the marketing photographs that were given. And this hedge was actually.
That's taken from the top of the garage.
Yeah.
Looking at.
This is actually taller when they looked at it than it is today. So they cut
oh, this is looking
this
out
hedge
this
down.
way, looking south.
It's either
Okay,
from here or
south.
there. somewhere.
Just for reference. So that hedge was taller when they purchased it. They've cut it down.
Okay.
You did not, I'm going to put this into a question. I wonder why, tell me why you haven't indicated Mr. Fenton's outline of his house in the back there, if this is so important.
Well, I have the photographs,
No, I mean an outline.
We don't have
a
a site plan.
footprint. Yeah, I don't have a
Don't have a
site.
site plan of his house back
We don't
there,
have a footprint.
Yeah.
a footprint.
All
I-
all we
yes.
have is a Google Earth photograph.
There.
Mm-hmm.
This is Krupika's house. This is the footprint of Mr. Finn's. This is their property line.
Okay.
Right.
So we were standing, all of us were standing on this deck right here, under
Right,
that big
yeah.
pine tree.
Yeah, I believe his living room is in this direction, and I'm sure the kitchen family room, I think, is oriented. I haven't been in there. I'd have to pull the archive plans. This is garage is right here.
Okay.
See, majority of his house is oriented more toward 1548.
I'll reserve some things for comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If the staff can approve a hedge up to,
If I can I just clarify real quick? Staff cannot approve hedge heights, so it's anything up to 8 feet is allowed. Anything higher than that requires the minor zoning exception. So hedges within front and interior setbacks are allowed to be 8 feet. Anything for hedges within front setbacks an additional 4 feet, or hedges within an interior setback 6 feet require MZE. So staff doesn't approve any sort of hedge limitation. It's either 8 feet or anything more requires the minor zoning exception.
Okay.
And then any additional exceptions may require modification. So if they were asking an additional amount in addition to that, then it would require mod.
Okay, and so that triggers the review that comes to our board.
That's correct.
Okay. Just to follow up, Katie, just to make sure we've got all the information, the zoning information report, was that only a zoning issue on hedge, or were there other items in that report?
I can double check the plan check. I believe it was just for the hedge.
It was for the fountain as well that
Oh,
you
that's
see in the photograph, because it was inside the side setback.
That's this fountain.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Okay, any further questions? All right, let's bring it back to comments, just so everyone understands. The board, either in conferring with both city attorney's office via staff, et cetera, and with Danny Cotto, indicated that our job is either to approve or disapprove. We can set limitations, we can set what we might believe might be a compromise, but it's basically, the only thing we're looking at is the hedge, nothing else. And that our decision is appealable directly to city council, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. So just so everyone understands what we're doing. So the chair will open it up for comments. Joe, I know you've been formulating some comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, on our site visit, I got up on a ladder and compared the houses to the houses and the reason I was asking for privacy issues is it is obvious that one house sits way east, the upper house sits way east of the lower house. And we're being asked to decide who's got more privacy than the other person, and that's what this whole question is. I asked the rest of the board that were located at the site visit to get up on that ladder and see where the houses are located in comparison to each other. And yes, I will state that the upper house has a really excellent view of the islands and the harbor and the ocean and everything that's in front of his house. But there is also privacy issues to the back of the lower house. I think we can come to a compromise here and satisfy both houses. I'll stick to houses.
Okay.
Okay, other comments?
I will weigh in.
Yes.
Given the site visit and the nature of the situation, I think a compromise because you said it's currently somewhere between 12 and 13 feet at a 12-foot height would not be a large diversion from the existing and would seem like a reasonable compromise to me.
Other comments?
That's kind of a challenging situation here. I am kind of in the camp that bringing the hedge down to like a 10-foot height I think would be all right. I don't think there's really a requirement to maintain privacy there, and or maybe like an 11-foot height, but I think that they could kind of find like a middle ground where there's some privacy to be had, and your neighbor could get some of the view. And then the other thing is I noticed that there was some like fake hedging material kind of like woven into the back of that hedge, and to me I would just kind of discourage that from being done. I just think that's kind of a poor way of trying to deal with screening between neighbors, so that's a comment.
Other comments?
Without being too obvious, we don't have to have that hedge the same height all the way along there.
No.
We can change the height of that hedge
Right.
based on where the houses are located.
Right.
Maybe you step the hedge down where the corner of this house lines up so he can get his
Right.
view, and then you can maintain.
No, it's not. No, it's not step. No,
Oh, because that's at the property line.
that's at the
next
property
house.
line.
I'm going to go with my comments. Part of the challenge, I kept looking at this property, and I've driven up there a couple of times to look at it from the street. And what dawned on me was, and that's why I was kind of looking at these two photographs. The new owners have really taken an effort to try to enclose their entire property with hedges and trees. These trees were planted. This is what it was like in theory when they first owned the property. Now you can't see the house hardly at all from the street. They put up a artificial screen material here at the top of the garage, which isn't here. They put artificial screening material in the hedge itself. They've really tried to make an effort to completely surround their home
Some of
with,
this is for
excuse me,
noise
excuse me,
reduction.
the discussion is to the board. I'll allow you to talk and want to make a note if you want to
All right.
make comments on my comments, that's fine, but let me finish my comments, please. And it kind of dawned on me that for folks that really want privacy, you know, there's a whole neighborhood in Montecito called Hedgerow, right? They go get in behind their hedges. And I'm sure the county deals with that much differently than we deal with it here in the Santa Barbara. So that's an issue, and because we're focused on property and not the current occupants of either property, that's where our dilemma is a little more difficult than it would be, say, in the county of Santa Barbara over in Montecito. So how do you deal with folks' privacy and folks' views? And the city attorney has told us on several occasions, and staff reemphasized today to us and at the site visit, that we're not obligated to guarantee anybody's private views from any window or any place within the structure. And we're not required to or obligated to guarantee anybody's views out from the home, whether it's to the mountains or the ocean or anywhere else. So we have a dilemma. We have some folks that feel like folks are looking into their windows. We have other folks that are saying, I need to be able to see out my windows, et cetera. So that's kind of the crux of our discussion. So I would encourage us perhaps to try to strike a compromise. It's already being offered on the table. And remember, this decision, unless it's overturned by the city council, will remain with the properties, with this property, and will travel forward to any future owner. So I think perhaps a way to deal with this is to compromise. And I, for one, would think about reducing the height of the hedge at this corner back to something like 10 feet. From this corner over, it could remain at 12. That could remain at 12. And I'm not convinced this hedge has to be at 12. We did review this project, as some of you may recall. This was reviewed by our board, and I believe we did give it final approval some time ago, maybe a year and a half ago. So they're still in the works of trying to start construction, et cetera. So we did look at that project, and I don't think it's really necessary to have 12 feet over here either. I think that could be back down to 10 feet. You know, part of the challenge of the Riviera, the whole hedge ordinance, the history of the hedge ordinance came about because of the Riviera. As you recall, there was a property up there that had huge hedges that probably grew even higher than these folks, these hedges, and it came to city council again on a neighbor complaint. And it got to the council, and at the time, the council didn't know what to do, and they threw up their hands and they put the whole thing in abeyance. And we were several years with no enforceable hedge ordinance until, what was it, 2 years ago, Katie? 3 years ago? When the different council decided to take it on. So the Riviera has been problematic for many years in terms of the amount of hedges. And it's kind of ironic when you look at the original Riviera photographs historically, it was pretty bare. The only places that you had foliage was in the waterways that drained off the Riviera. If you look at early photographs, the whole Riviera was just golden grass and oak trees in the ravines and sycamores. So that's the dilemma. In my view, I think there is a way to make this work between properties for may not please the current owners of either property, But again, we have to look to the longevity of our decision well beyond the people that are in the homes now. And this may be a way to do that. So that's my thoughts. Other comments?
I think that if you're going to make the suggestion of stepping the hedge, it would be good to see a plan with the location of the neighboring house on it, so we could
I agree with you.
accurately locate where
understand
that
where it is.
step
Yeah.
should happen.
Well, we have an option to forego a final decision today. We could request that the applicant return with that additional information before we make a decision, if that's the choice of the board, and the chair would look to a motion to that effect if that's what you're all thinking.
I'll make that motion.
Okay?
I would like to make a motion that that the board postpone our decision until we see a footprint of the upper house behind and its location on the site plan, so we can
You'd like to
accurately.
continue the project indefinitely?
indefinitely
Back to the full
continue.
board?
Yeah.
Back to the full board, okay. So, and so your motion is to see the location of this upper property?
Yes, with the deck.
Okay,
With
and-
deck and garage.
Okay, and do you want to see any specific information on, additional information on the hedge, or is that all?
No, that's fine. And the height of this hedge right here, going from the corner of the property going east, and the garage and location of the deck back there, and second story.
Okay.
Elevations, correct?
Yeah.
Plan and elevation.
Plan and elevations.
You're talking about getting the hedge location on the neighboring
Yeah,
property.
there appears to be a hedge here that appears to be on this
It
applicant's
drops down right there.
Drops down right there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
locating that would be helpful.
Can I be allowed by Mr. Fenton to go onto the property to document that? How else can I document
Well,
that?
we know there's a way, having done this just recently, your surveyor can do it from your property without having to go on the applicant's property. That's why they have lasers. It works that way. Okay. Is that the motion?
My motion.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion? I'll second. Okay. Is there further discussion to the motion? Okay. Hearing no further discussion to the motion, the chair will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, we'll see you back here once you have that information.
right.
Thank you.
One set, if you'd like to take the others. Would you like to take the other 2 cents, otherwise I'll recycle?
Oh, that's fine, yeah, you could.
You want these, Katie?
Okay. Let's see, that goes back to Katie.
I'm just going to stop and go.
All right, we're
Here you go, Michelle.
on schedule. So let's go to 1616 Lorcania Drive. This project was last reviewed November 13th.
Let me just ask you real quick.
Yes.
I have a more up-to-date set. Would you rather refer to that, or is it easier if you all have the same thing?
You can put your new set.
Put your new set right here, and then we can
Okay.
ask questions if we don't understand.
It's not
the
material
difference.
any different.
Put that right here. Okay, if you could introduce yourselves, please.
Kat McConnell, owner, applicant.
Welcome.
I'm Jeffrey Stoutenborough. I'm the architect.
Welcome. So this project is here for requesting design approval. We last reviewed it on November 13th. Mr. Richards, can you read what we did, please?
All right, at the last meeting, the motion was to continue 2 weeks with the following comments. On the south elevation, study the entry trellis on the page A6. Include the overhang that is shown on the east elevation and provide details of the proposed fireplace. 2, on the north elevation, restudy the proposed roof material. Standing seam metal is not acceptable. 3, show all gutters and downspouts and where they lead to, as well as details of vents. 4, superimpose on the site plan what is existing and what is proposed. 5, provide a preliminary landscape plan and include all hardscape. Also include the landscaping around the garage as well as the west and northwest side of the property and show any proposed tree removal. 6, provide a proposal for the water heater and study alternative locations. Action was taken by Motisha, seconded by Miller, and there was 5 in approval. The motion was carried.
Thank you. So if you could share with us what you've done since the last time we saw you.
Well, I think if we can, we'll just go down the comments
Okay.
one at a time, and they may hopscotch back and forth amongst different subjects, but and my list for some reason is a little different order than yours. Some of these were technical issues. South elevation, E6. It was noted there's a small eyebrow element that is seen straight on this elevation here.
This is yours.
And can be seen other than beyond the dashed line where there's a property line wall. Can be seen from the front. But it was noted in the meeting last time that it could be also seen from the rear. And so we've added this piece here to show that. I think that's just a technical item. The front trellis was an issue. I think the real issue that you were looking at was how does this work with the roof? On the roof plan, it was shown that there was a cutout for that trellis. It was notched up to give the trellis a place to sort of tie into the roof and give it a sort of a reason for being there. And the real reason for being there is just to give it a little bit more of an arrival
So do you
element
have-
at the front door.
Do you have a section or a roof plan so we can see what it looks like?
Right, both. Which would you prefer?
Either. Show us both, please.
Okay. Let's look at the section. I think it's really a section problem. I practice looking at these upside down more often.
Right here?
Yes. So originally these elements were 4x4s. They're 8 4x4s. It's not a big trellis. It's 8 individual pieces of wood we're talking about. And they were raised up, and the roof was notched back to receive them.
So the roof is notched back to here?
But in the last proposal, but what we've done after reviewing your comments and looking at it again was to keep the roof as it is. This is the existing fascia location. And just lower those a few inches. It allows the bottom of those elements to flush out with the existing beam that's there, and it allows us to bring the existing gutter past uninterrupted, and so it just sort of cleans that all up.
Okay, so that's anchored to the bottom of this?
Yes.
Anchored
and-
into here, okay.
Right. And we have, at the board's request, details showing those elements, if you'd like to take a look at those.
F10.
Let's go to
Sheet A5.
we can understand what's going on. There's a plan.
Right. And you can see on the roof plan, the roof line is not changed.
So that's how it's incurred.
Right, this is the back end where it ties in with the beam. It's just a simple angle that it shelves onto.
So these members just go underneath the roof and the roof stays?
Yep.
The roof is staying now?
Yes.
Right. So here's the roof, there's the gutter, this is the extension of the fascia, and they're using a little L bracket here to be able to hold those guys up.
Correct. Was this removed before?
Yeah, it was. The last time we looked at it, there was a
There was a
Hole
notch.
there.
There was a notch in the roof, right.
So basically, you're just bringing these out right here, and that trellis is open to the sky. It's just hanging out there underneath that fascia.
Right.
Yeah, the dash portion here, it's under where the porch
Correct,
is, and then
correct.
here it's just open to the sky.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, let's go back to that sheet A5. There were another couple of details there regarding the fireplace cap down at the bottom. And I think there was just some question as to what that really looked like. And, right, it's a simple box that's designed to sit over the factory spark arrestor, and then these 4 plates just attached to the box. It's really pretty simple.
Okay.
And it's all stainless steel.
Okay.
We had this noted as a north elevation item, but really it was a question of the standing seam metal roof, and we have changed the roof material. The problem was there was structural recommendations for a lightweight material. This material is about twice as heavy, but it's still about half as heavy as some other traditional materials.
Okay.
But it will look like a standard shake.
It's a good product.
Okay. And then we had request just to delineate where gutters and downspouts
Yes,
were going.
and they're shown on the roof plan there as well as all the elevations.
Okay.
And then there was roof vent detail requested.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have at each end of the house, there's this end, and then at the other end, there's a pair.
Okay.
And those are custom shapes, but there is a section detail of that if you're
What they look like. Okay.
interested. Let's see, I'm trying to think where that is located.
Those metal or wood?
Metal.
Okay. And then the other thing we had was landscape plan, preliminary landscape.
Okay, right, and on the site plan. We just had the one drawing before, and at the scale of the drawing is, it's a little difficult to show all the information, so we've now got 2 drawings. So we have the landscape plan, which is the hardscape, and then we have a planting plan over here to show all the softscape items and the new plantings. All the plantings are in just this one little area. We're not disturbing any, and a planter. We're not disturbing the landscaping elsewhere on the site.
And then last time we had some things going out here, that's gone away?
Yes, we had there's a problem with this garage overheating. It's in the sun all the time, and we had some shading devices and some rain barrels that were trying to cool that garage down. We've just removed all of those elements, so it's just a bare wall now.
Okay.
One item was you wanted to see the demo line. So if you look at sheet A 1.2, here you go, right here.
Whoops.
It was on the plan before, but we just beefed
Okay,
it up
so
and
it's
made it a little more obvious
more
that that's the
clarified.
existing line that's
Okay.
changed.
Okay. And then we had an issue with the water heater.
Oh, right, and maybe site plan would be good for that. There's an existing metal cabinet that houses the current water heater right here. And it's a 40-gallon tank-type water heater. It's a house of the 60s.
Okay, so is that staying?
No. What we are going to do is there's an existing water softener that's on the porch that the owner would like to put away so it's not out in plain sight. So we'd like to move that water softener into that cabinet for 2 reasons. 1, to hide it visually, and 2, to help keep it quiet. And then the water heater for the house would be replaced with a exterior vented, wall-mounted tankless type right next to it. And those are screened by, we've raised this, site wall is 32 inches high right now. We'd like to raise that to 7 feet. And we mentioned that on here. There is a section back here that is 78 inches, so that's just 1 course higher than that section. And from that existing high section to the front here, I stepped it here because the front wall is 5 feet. So I took that back 5 feet, and then to screen the equipment, I raised it up about 10 feet back.
So this is a concrete block wall?
Yes, it's plaster to match the house.
Okay.
And so that's the screening that's required for the mechanical equipment.
Katie, just quickly, they can do a wall or a fence up to 8 feet, correct? Okay, thank you.
And in concert with that, we're, at the request of the neighbor, I hate to bring up the word, but we're going to change this hedge by removing it from here to the back.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
Oh,
I couldn't hear that.
sorry, I'm sick.
We didn't want you to hear it.
No, we're removing the hedge from the front entry, the wall
And
from the
this
front
hedge
to the back.
straddles both properties.
Yes, it's a property line hedge, and we're just removing it from that front wall all the way to the back of the property.
At the neighbor's request.
Okay, as also requested the removal of
Yes.
the
Yes.
Okay,
So then there'll be no screening in the back?
Well, and that's why we raised the masonry wall,
that's why, if
to make up for
Robert,
that.
what he's doing is, this front wall is currently 5 feet,
Sure.
and then he's going to take it back to this point at 5 feet,
Uh-huh.
and then it bumps up 2 feet. From there to here is 7 feet, and then from here to where, right there? How
Well,
high
all
is
the
that?
way to the back, we'll just keep
Okay,
it.
so that's all
because
7 feet. So it
because he has
becomes
rooms back here.
becomes a 7-foot fence,
And it just ends kind of like perpendicular to the house there.
right here.
Yeah.
Right there.
And
Yeah,
then,
the-
but you've got hedges past that now that you're going to be removing?
Yes, there's some concern about brush clearance, that falling into brush clearance, and the neighbor would like to see it gone.
All
So
right.
we're taking it out.
Okay. Okay. And I think that was it on
I think the
list.
only other item was a color board, which we submitted back in December.
Okay. Do we have that, Katie? Okay.
The only missing item on there is the actual roof sample itself.
Okay, which you have a photograph. Okay. All right.
There was a note about.
That's that big tree in the stack.
Just the magnolia, that's the only one? Okay, thank you.
And that was given last time.
All right.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, before we go to further comments, questions from the board, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, would you receive any written comment?
No, Mr. Chair.
Chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions and comments. The applicant is requesting project design approval. Questions?
Question.
Lisa?
Have you thought about where you might relocate the trash enclosure that I see marked over here on A2?
What are you looking at? Under
A2, existing concrete trash pad not allowed on setback without minor zoning exception. Are you applying?
I think it's now allowed.
It
Is
is. It is allowed, and it's.
You would need to request a minor zoning exception, so it would have to be a noticed hearing if you do want to request that.
We'll leave it there.
So,
Well, to be
yes.
clear, it's not a structure, it's just a concrete pad.
The 3-inch concrete pad, and
No,
it was.
I understand that, but the trash cans would be in the setbacks, so.
So the storage of the trash cans in the setback would require a minor zoning exception. You don't have to show your trash on the plans unless it's, unless you're requesting to keep it there. So
Yeah,
I
the
suggest if it's not
technicality.
a structure and you don't, I would just put it on the plan.
Just don't show it.
Just don't show it.
Behind
Unless
this
there's
wall.
an enclosure, then it would need a minor zoning
This
exception.
wall is 5 feet high. If you drive by the property today, even if I didn't know it was there, you couldn't see it was there. So if they don't show it on the plan, technically, we don't have to look at it, they don't have to look at it, it's not there. Okay.
Unless there's an enclosure that they're proposing in the setback, then it
They're
would
not.
require a minor zoning exception.
You're moving
It's
the,
like for all of us that have our trash cans on our side of the garage. So you finally
you're
figured that
moving
out.
your soft water, which was here.
Yes.
And you're putting it over here.
It's, yes, it's currently on the porch, so every guest who comes to the house gets to see the hot water.
I tried that once, and it cost me more to plumbing than it did anything else to get the line over there.
Since we are demoing this area, the plumbers say it would be easier to run the drain over.
Because they're doing all kinds of plumbing in here anyway. They're working.
Soft water takes supply.
Yeah.
Soft water takes supply. That's what I'm talking about.
The supply is already there.
Already
There
there.
was the previous owners had a rental system in that same spot.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Okay, let's go to comments.
Well, it looks to me they've pretty much satisfied all our recommendations. I can support the project.
Anyone else? Okay, if there are no further comments, then the chair would look for a motion that the applicant is requesting project design approval. And you'll need to give it neighborhood findings if you choose to give it approval.
All right, I'll make the motion. I move to give this project design approval with the following findings. Speaking needs to be put on. Give this project design approval with the following findings: that the consistency and appearance is appropriate to the character of the neighborhood. Compatibility is compatible with the neighborhood in terms of size, bulk, and scale. Appropriate to the site and neighborhood. Quality of architecture and materials have been used. Good neighbor guidelines have been followed. And that's my motion.
That's your motion?
Are you continuing it back to the full board or consent?
I think we should back to consent.
Okay, so your motion is to consent? Okay. That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, any further, do I have a second to that motion? I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay. Just a second to the motion on the floor. Is there further discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so carried. So you have project design approval that has a 10-day appeal period, and the board has directed to you when you're ready for final to go back to consent calendar. That's held every week at 11 o'clock. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to keep the other two sets, otherwise I'll...
Move it in again.
Oh, you're up next. Oh, okay. So you got to switch places?
Switch.
Sure. I'll take one.
Okay. Here's my notes. These things need to go back to Katie. Okay, we're to item number 4, 30 Skyline Circle. Any action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. Findings are required as outlined in Santa Barbara Municipal Code 30.245 minor zoning exceptions and Santa Barbara Municipal Code 30.140.10, point E, point 2, point A for the proposed additional fence height allowances. Okay, if you could introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, my name is Brian Miller, the designer. My name's Kumar Atterbury. I'm the property owner.
Okay, welcome. Katie, I need to read something into the record for Brian. Yep. The green sheet. Ah, thank you. Okay, so before we get started,
Thursday.
I need to read into the record that the State Political Practices Act's Regulation 18702.4, paragraph B, subparagraph 5 states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Brian Miller is a sole practitioner, is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his client. So with that, we're waiting for what, a set of
We're
drawings?
waiting for Katie to bring the updated drawings.
Oh, okay. Then let's take a quick recess and we'll reconvene.
Okay.
I don't know how long it'll take her to get. Let's see, do we have some information from our last meeting?
I don't because it was noticed as a new item.
Okay, so could you explain that, please, before I have
Okay,
them
so at the
present?
last hearing, the minor zoning exception wasn't requested, and now that they are asking for a minor zoning exception, that requires a mailed notice for the hearing. So the project had to be re-noticed or noticed. So that's why it's being. You need to read into the record the new project description today. That's why
Okay,
there
so
is
the
no
whole
past
project
minutes.
description, okay.
That's
And
correct.
so that's the action we're dealing with.
It's basically a new item, yes.
Okay, all right, so this is a proposal to construct a 340 square foot first floor addition and a new 861 square foot second story addition.
I think we're on the wrong project.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
Dublin.
Dublin.
I was going to say, Brian,
Right.
you're really taking some liberties here.
Not quite right, sorry. This is a proposal to construct a 194 square foot one-story
There we
addition
go.
to an existing one-story single residential unit. Other site improvements include an exterior shower and a new 270 square foot wood deck. Proposed total of 1,189 square feet of development on a 9,289 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 34% of the maximum allowable floor to lot area ratio. A minor zoning exception is requested to allow a fence to exceed 3.5 feet in height with a 10 feet front lot line. So Katie, just to be clear, we're reviewing the one-story addition and we're reviewing the fence, correct?
All of the changes outlined in the project description and the minor zoning exception is just for the fence alone.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And so we're dealing with the fence like we dealt with the hedge.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Do they require separate motions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you could share with us where you are, please.
Yeah, so you saw this project once before, and you've reviewed the architectural design of it, which have not changed, but because we're getting a minor zoning variation, we had to include the details of the fence that we're proposing. This property has an unusual condition in that it doesn't have an existing carport or driveway, and this house was originally built in the 40s, and ever since the history of the property, it's a existing non-conforming condition where they've been parking along the street. So for privacy requests and needs of the owner, the client, they have an existing fence there now, and it's 8 feet? 6 feet?
About 6.5 feet.
Yeah, and they'd actually like to replace that fence with a more attractive fence, which I've got drawings here at the base of the drawings. That's a dog-eared style because they already have it existing on other parts of the property. To distinguish the main entry of the gate, we're proposing a gate with a little planted trellis, which was suggested by Mr. Sweeney at our previous meeting. There.
The camera's not.
So that's the new addition on this drawing. Otherwise, if we go forward here, this is where the addition's being located with the new wood deck here. This is the room addition, new deck. This is kind of a section showing that with the roof kind of playing in with the existing style of the architecture and these are the elevations. Okay. It's a very simple addition. And that's it.
Okay, Joe? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone in the public wishing to address this project? Katie, did we receive any written?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The chair will close it to public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Anyone have questions?
If I could just also direct the board again to these packets. If you do give the project approval, please make the necessary findings required for the request, which are listed on the front page.
Okay, thank you. So my only question again is just to be clear. So you have a side gate and an entry gate. So does this become a new gate? Is it dealt like with the same with this, or is
I
it different?
think that would be a hidden gate. I forgot to draw that in.
So it'd be 6 foot high?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is?
The main entry gate.
Entry gate. So the rest of this is 6 foot high?
Yes.
And when I was out there last, and I did see the parking here, the paving appears to go right up to the bottom of the fence, is that correct? Do we have photographs of?
Yeah, they're
Oops. Of what that looks like?
Here, there you go.
All right, so there's some kind of paving material that looks like it's right up to the edge. Okay, and then there's a little planter here. So is that going away, and is this opening going over here, or is it in the basically the same place?
Basically the same place.
So is that this little thing going away? No?
I think we're gonna get rid of that.
Okay.
We're actually waiting for the streets division to repave this area of the road for some unrelated issues.
Okay.
And I believe when they do, they're gonna repave the portion that comes up to the property line, which
So-
is about half of that area.
And so they're going to, okay, so they're going to pave half of this or up to the fence?
Well, that's an unknown.
Oh, okay, because the property line comes to a few feet in.
Right.
From the current paving. So we're not sure whether they're going to.
They haven't really been clear on that.
Okay.
But there's a drainage issue at the neighbor's property that
Okay,
they're
and
gonna
these are
rent
the
from.
two boxes there, okay.
Right.
So this goes away, and then you'll have a drop-off, right? Because this is stepping down?
A little bit, yeah. There's 2
We
steps.
could leave the planner also. I mean, we haven't really gotten too much into that discussion yet.
Okay,
Waiting to hear from
so-
the city.
It's a very unusual situation, and the property drops off really abruptly.
Yeah, no, I recall that, because
Yeah.
I was standing right there, kind of looking down.
We're open
Okay.
to any suggestions from the
All
board
right,
also.
so that's where we are here, and then it drops down, and then this fence just is going to remain as is, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Which is this style.
okay, all right. Okay, other questions?
And you sandbagged the whole thing, though?
I have 78 sandbags running along there, yes, as of yesterday.
Keep the water out.
Pretty,
Okay.
and
The city has
if
no
you guys
curbs
know
on
anyone
it.
in streets, and you can give me their number, that'd be great, because they haven't been returning my phone call.
They have no curbs up here. Okay, other questions? Okay, let's go to comments. Lisa?
I can support this project.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I can too. At one time, I embarrassed somebody in the city when they repaved the road and allowed the water to go onto my property.
Okay, then.
I took them to task.
It's
It
an
worked.
unfortunate situation.
It worked.
We had to be very proactive.
Okay, other comments?
I
Robert?
support the project. I think it looks good.
My only comment would be resolution of this. When you go, and I would be supportive of sending this on the project design approval so that it can go for final to consent. I don't know who's going to make a motion, but I would support that, given the minimal amount of stuff we're having to look at. But if however you resolve that, you might want to try to spend a little bit of money just to make this a little more permanent than that wood, what appears to be a wood, as I recall, a wood planter, just so it might last a while.
Yeah, so it
Given
looks
the-
nice, yeah.
So given the fact that if they pave up at least till there, then it kind of will all come together nicely.
Dave, but you kind of want to remove it, right? What's your...
I'll let you guys figure that out.
Okay, all right.
You know, when you come back, but obviously you're going to have to resolve this just because you got a grade differential there
Yeah.
to get to the bottom of that gate. So that's my only comments. Okay. Lisa, further comments? Okay, if we have no further comments, is someone ready to make a motion?
I will make a motion.
Okay.
The board would like to give this project design approval to be continued to consent calendar with the following comments, that we approve replacing the fence, a new entry gate and trellis. And are you asking for a minor zoning exception?
Well, yeah. and
Yes,
so-
they are,
So you
so-
have to read.
Okay, so yes, I
You have
know
to
what I'm
read the
supposed to read.
findings in item
Yep.
one here.
Got it. And the minor zoning exceptions required for this project are as follows: that granting of such exception will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood; that B, the improvements are cited such that they minimize the impacts to abutting properties; C, the project generally complies with the applicable privacy, landscape, noise, and lighting standards in the single-family design good neighbor guidelines; and D, the improvement will be compatible with the existing development and character of the neighborhood. Also, the findings under fence height, granting such exception will not create or exacerbate an obstruction of the necessary sight lines for the safe operation of motor vehicles. And we would also urge that you resolve the issue of the little front planter before you come back to consent.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Is there
We
whoops.
need to make the NPO findings, please.
You need to- yeah.
Additionally, this project meets the NPO findings. It's consistent with the appearance of the neighborhood and compatible, uses quality architecture and materials, and it follows good neighbor guidelines.
Okay, that's the motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I second it.
Okay. I would, in terms of discussion to the motion on the floor, would encourage the maker of the motion to indicate that if the applicant chooses to do any specific lighting near the entry of the gate, that be kept as low-key and dark sky compliant as possible.
I accept that language into the motion if that's allowable.
Okay, and is that acceptable to the seconder of the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, so you go to consent calendar.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
That's the 10-day appeal period.
And it has a 10-day appeal period.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian. See you later. All right.
Wait, I need to keep the photos.
So I'll talk to you later on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.
Okay, now we go to the second story edition. I was reading that and I'm going, no, wait a minute, I don't remember a second story on this project. All right. We're right on time finally. Okay, we're on item number 5, 636 Aurora Avenue. This is here for a fifth concept review. Project design approval is requested. Project was last reviewed on November 27, 2017. You could introduce yourself, please.
I'm Carl Schneider, architect for the project.
Welcome.
I'm Elaine Saffin, resident.
Welcome.
David Saffin.
Okay, welcome. Okay. Going to have a set of drawings here in a minute. Thank you. Mr. Miller, if you could read our comments from the November 27th, 2017 meeting, please.
Yeah, the board requested that standard story poles be put up on the site showing ridge lines, eaves, and rakes. Bright flags are to be used on the horizontal lines to illuminate the volume, and a site visit is to be scheduled once the poles are up. Sorry, I repeat myself. The board requests that the standard story poles be put up on the site showing ridge lines, eaves, and rakes. Bright flags are to be used on the horizontal lines to illuminate the volume, and a site visit is to be scheduled once the poles are up. Number 2, the 7-foot 6-inch plate height and the roof shape changes are acceptable. Action taken by James, seconded by Motisha.
Okay, thank you. So if you could share with us where you are at this point. Any changes since our last review?
No, other than the story poles.
Other than the story poles, okay.
Which everybody, well, not everybody, but most of you saw it today.
4 of
earlier.
us saw it.
Right.
Okay, so there's nothing else we should review?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so before we go to our discussion, the chair will go for public comment.
But we would like
Do
to
you-
also speak
Oh,
about
that's
this.
true. They do want to comment on a few
Okay,
things.
then, because you're the owners,
Yes.
you have no time limit, and you can speak now because this is the presentation piece.
exactly.
So proceed.
At the board meeting on October 30th, which was the third concept meeting of our project, the board had strongly indicated that the only change we needed to make to satisfy its requirements was to reduce the plate height of our proposed second story to 7 feet 6 inches, which we did. But at the November 27th meeting, the board required us to undertake yet another new task, putting up story poles. The board stated that story poles would enable the neighborhood to understand what's going on, as if the neighborhood were somehow opposed to our project. There was no acknowledgement that 12 of our neighbors had signed a statement to the board approving of our project. This included the neighbors adjacent to our property on the south and east, as well as the two directly across the street. The only neighbors opposing our project were the neighbor above us to the north, the Dinsellis, and Joan Coyle, the neighbor above them. At this point, we'd like to remind the board of our efforts over the last 7 months to meet its concerns. We reduced the east-facing portion of the second floor by 18 inches, eliminated the east-facing deck, and kept the roof line very low, all in an attempt, as far as we could see, to preserve the Dinsellis' ocean views, even though this is not supposed to be a relevant criteria. The single-family residence design guidelines state that a second-story addition should be oriented to a home's rear and designed to reduce the structure's volume visible from the street. We followed those guidelines. We lowered the plate height of the second floor to 7 feet 6 inches, despite the fact that the federal standard is 8 feet and 9 or more is now common. This has forced us to abandon certain plans for the upstairs rooms, including bunk beds for our grandkids, hanging certain paintings, and placing certain pieces of furniture. Nevertheless, we went along. The SFR recommends high window placement to prevent views into adjacent houses. We have followed this by keeping the north-facing windows on the second floor high. We also made several changes to the architectural details of the north-facing wall, as the board recommended. The SFR recommends a floor-to-lot ratio below 85%. Ours is 76%. This is the 5th concept review meeting of our project. We are now entering the 8th month of this process. We believe we've complied fully with the board's concerns and requests. Our project is fairly modest compared with others the board has approved, including the Dinsellis. We feel it's time that our project was approved.
Thank you.
The Dinsellis have repeatedly stated that we have not followed the good neighbor policy, but this is untrue. We have a long history of being extremely neighborly, even when it was costly to us and reduced our privacy. When they constructed a large backyard patio, which some of you were able to see today, which was 3 feet above the existing patio, without consulting us, destroying our backyard privacy, increasing the noise coming from their yard, and destroying the fence between our properties in the process, we did not protest. And upon being asked, we agreed to pay half the cost of constructing the new fence, only a few inches higher than the pre-existing one, again, because we were asked that they would like to be able to have a view. Okay? The Dinsellis' expansion will further erode our privacy, but we nevertheless supported their desire to expand, and I signed a letter in support of their project. I cannot imagine how we could have been better neighbors. But when I first went to the Dinsellis to share our architectural design, a plan which kept our ceilings at 8 feet, though we would have preferred 9 feet, and which is common in our neighborhood. There are 10-foot ceilings in the house 2 down from us. And we were also asked by Ross that we keep the roof line low, okay, to minimize the blockage of their view, okay, which we also did. Nick responded when I went over to share the plan by saying to me, this is a quote, "To be perfectly frank, Elaine, if you build a second story, we will have to move." I was quite surprised. I responded by saying, "That would be a shame, but you should do whatever you need to do." What the Dinsellis decided to do was to obstruct the construction of our second story, no matter what we proposed, including trying to organize our neighbors against our expansion. This backfired as 12 of our immediate neighbors signed a petition supporting our plan. Now that the Dinsellis recognize that they cannot stop us entirely, they want us to move our second story forward. This would not only go against the single-family residence guidelines, but would also result in the elimination of 3 existing skylights, which we greatly value. While the design board has repeatedly stated that the city council has instructed them that they should not rule to preserve ocean views, this is precisely what we feel the design board has been doing, especially by forcing us to reduce the size of our upstairs bedrooms and reduce our upstairs plate height to 7.5 feet. We have nevertheless complied. But our request for approval has still not been granted after 4 meetings. We felt compelled to consult with a local real estate lawyer who stated, "Your neighbors do not have a visual easement over your property. You have stated this yourselves with different language, and yet we are here before you for the 5th time. We now respectfully request that there are no more delays and that you now approve our preliminary design plan so we can move forward." Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other? Okay,
I think
that's
that's
it.
it.
Okay. All right, so Katie, did we get any written comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do you have one speaker, Nick Dincelli? I can get you to speak into that microphone, please.
Oh, well, this is...
You need to speak into the microphone.
Nick Dincelli, 640 Aurora Avenue, northern neighbor. So yeah, this has gotten into a little bit of mudslinging, and I'm sorry about that. Not the way we wanted it. We never wanted to stop the project. We just wanted to have a little bit of input on it, and we've been saying for 2 years, let our architect talk with your architect, we can work something out. And then they submitted the plans without talking with ours. And so in that, we've just been playing defense. We said all along, you're going to build a second story. We know it. We acknowledge that. Just work with us. At one point, their architect actually measured the plate height and what you'd be able to see visually above it. And we're not in really necessarily a talking relationship with our neighbors, but I guess they haven't quite seen what we see from our upstairs is a complete loss. And so all along we've been saying we'd love to work with you. Here's more pictures for you guys for the board, should you want those. I was hoping with the story poles that we would get more of an outline of the actual width of the project as well. We only got the roof line, the back, and then just one of the ridges, so we didn't actually get to see the entirety of the project. So we're still kind of trying to grasp what to do with our project. Again, we're not trying to stop their project at all. I think what we're trying to do is, if you saw the houses across the street, there are 2 big houses across the street that have big sheer walls. And what they have planned is a rather large sheer wall. And all along we've said, let's work this out. Let's try to minimize impact. We just want to avoid what they had next door across the street, the big sheer wall. Push it back a little bit, use a little bit of the roof line to bury your second story. We're going to lose part of our view. We got that. We understand it. We're not trying to block the project. We're just asking to work with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are these for us to keep?
Yeah, you can keep
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, before you leave, we have one question.
Where were these taken from?
Okay, sorry, yes. So 8-foot plate, 1 foot floor for the floor, so at 9 feet exactly, standing.
So they were taking at the floor line of the second floor?
Yes. What my proposed floor line will be.
These are taken from your roof?
Yes.
Okay.
And I measured at 9 foot, the spot at 9 feet, which is my 8-foot plate plus 1 foot for the floor. And then I stood there with a camera at my head length or head height. And this is the picture.
So these are taken, sorry, let me ask the question again. Or maybe I'll make a
8-foot
statement.
plate, yeah.
They were taken at 9 foot, they were taking at
My
the
finished second story height.
finished second floor height.
Yes.
So nobody's going to be down there looking. What I'm making a statement now.
Okay.
And maybe a question too. You're taking a picture from a floor level that nobody ever is going to be at.
No. He has this board reviewed a previous application which hasn't been implemented for a second floor on
I have the
this
plans
house.
if you'd like to see them.
I have plans.
Well, I know, I realize that. I'm just asking where the,
So he's taking it from a 9-foot level, which is the theoretically level of a second floor that would be on his new addition.
I understand that.
That's if
I
you're
understand
standing
that.
at that
What
level,
I'm-
or if your eye level is right at that.
Standing.
He's standing, so plus...
Plus 5, typically we use 5 feet 2.
Oh,
as
you're
a-
standing at that 9-something, and then you took a picture at the 14, 15 feet.
The convention
Okay.
is to use somewhere between 5 and 5'2" as the eye level.
And I did that because what was presented by the architect was sort of that eye line level over the roof line. So
Is that clear?
Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions well, let's start with questions. Who has questions?
Can we see the rear elevation of the residence?
Whoops. 5. That's it, right?
The rear, the one facing,
Okay, and the...
Facing the backyard, right?
yeah, that would be this
This one.
And what about the ones facing the Vincelli?
It's this one.
The north? Whatever that is, yeah.
So those 2-story poles were set right, are these 2 walls in line?
Yeah, 2-story poles were set down back here.
Correct.
These 2 are in the same line, these 2, or that one's set back? That one's
Oh,
set back?
they're in the same plane.
They're in the same plane, sorry,
So
same plane.
the story
okay.
poles we saw, there was a
Right
pole
there,
here
and
and
one
a pole
right
there.
And define the gable there.
Okay,
Okay.
and it defined that gable, and then we saw only the ridge line here,
Right.
which is what your question
Yeah.
was. And on this side, we saw a eave and ridge line all the way out to here, I believe,
Yes.
on the north
Right,
elevation.
correct, on the north elevation.
Right, and we do have, I had Katie pull the drawings on the Dincelli's addition if we want to look at those. So
I
those
would
are
like.
good. You would- Katie, can we have those to look at, please?
Return to the site plan here.
Yeah.
Let's see, let's just put those on top of the site plan. Oh, it is there, they are there, okay.
Right.
Project design approvals.
So this is what we have. That element is that garage. And I believe this is a bump out that was added to here, and then their second floor addition was basically here. You see it's back from the ridge line of the garage.
So it's right to there.
It's,
not-
yeah, it's,
not there.
yeah, it's right in here. Okay, and it goes back to the back of, or beyond, a few feet beyond their property. Let's pull that elevation and the back elevation. So we can just see.
Well, here's the-
And Katie, where's Katie? Was this given project design approval, final approval?
That received project design approval.
So it still
No
hasn't
final.
come back for final?
That's correct.
So it will at some point, theoretically, if they want to pursue it, it has to come back for
That's
final?
correct.
And does it have a time limitation on that?
Project design approval is good for 3 years.
For 3 years, okay.
So here's that south elevation, and here's the east building line.
Right. And I think if you look right here, this is the adjacent property that we're talking about. And so if you look at these drawings, what happened to them? Where'd they go? Oh, Katie, you took them back. Sorry.
I gave them back.
All right. If you look at, well, we'd probably just look at this. It's hard to do all of this on the same camera. Let me move it that way, there. So if you look at the applicant, Mr. Schneider has drawn the edge of this property, which is here, okay? And then that's the gable end, okay, here. So the second floor of this proposed structure is starting somewhere right about here, okay? And it's, let's just scale it just to make sure we're dealing with the right stuff. This is, we should probably use something that's to scale. Let's get a proper drawing here. Here, okay, so this is 1/4 inch. So the eave from the finished floor is 18 feet, more or less. So 18 feet back here, if this is scaled correctly, is about right there. So if I were to replicate that drawing onto here, we'd have something like, I'm not drawing very well, hands not stretched. That's this little, whatever that is. Okay? So that's the relationship to that house, based on these scale drawings. Okay? And if you look at, let's just take a quick look at the south elevation. This is the, this is the elevation that would be looking at Nope, let's go to the other page. This elevation looks at that elevation right here. So these windows are looking that way, and we asked the applicant in this project to reduce the size of those windows and move them up high so that they're above, from the finished floor line, what, 5 feet? I can't scale.
We went to a head height, 7-foot head height.
But no, to the sill, what's the sill to the floor?
Oh,
more or less.
5, 6, 5 feet, yeah, someplace
5
in
feet
there.
like that, okay. So a average sized person, 5'8" or whatever, they really have to kind of get up to the window and look through to look up into these windows. Okay? So that was the issue of privacy. That's why there's so much blank wall here. Okay? And then the back of the house is this one.
Yes.
So that's the back of, so if you're looking that, you're going to look at that in relationship to this, if the other house is up there. Okay? Okay? Are there other questions? All right, then if there are no more questions, let's go to comments. The applicant is requesting project design approval. Comments?
So I have to admit, I did not go out to the site visit, but I'm extremely familiar with the properties because I knew the people that originally owned your home. I really appreciate, Fred, you bringing out the other drawings of the elevations. If we were to take the issue of the views away, it's an appropriate house. Size, bulk, and scale, in terms of style, it fits. I think if you compare it with the other house, they look good together. I think they make a nice flow as far as neighborhood compatibility. And technically, it's not our purview to, enforce private views, as you've stated. So in that context, I think, this is one of those situations where I think I can support this design. I think it's appropriate. I think they've done what we've asked. And I think as far as the size, bulk, and scale for this particular situation, I could support it. So I think those are my comments.
Okay, other comments?
I have to say, I'm really glad that we did story polls. They were very, very revealing, and I feel that the applicant has bent over backwards to accommodate our requests and to be good neighbors, and I will be in support of the project. I feel like it's compatible with the neighborhood and a reasonable addition.
Joe?
I'm fine.
Robert?
Yeah, I agree with the other comments. I mean, I can see it's kind of a bummer as a neighbor to lose your view, but when you build your second-story addition, you're going to get the view too. And I think the two homes seem to kind of be in similar scale to each other, so I support the project.
They actually work good together.
Yeah.
I don't have any comments because if I do, I would be commenting outside of our
Purview?
preview.
Yeah.
My comment really is to neighborhood compatibility, because as we stood out there today, and I think I pointed out to the three of you as we were standing there with staff, if you look at the houses that cascade down the street, there is a tall second-story house that's 2 houses down from this applicant. There is a 1-story in between the two that right now has some solar panels on the backside. And we know at some point, given the nature of what's happening in this entire neighborhood on the Mesas, we're getting continual requests for second floors. So it would not surprise me to see that house come back to us at some point with some different owner perhaps requesting a second floor.
Yeah.
So now we would have a cascading set of second floor homes all the way down that street, as there is 2 across the street. To address your issue about the plate heights, the struggle we have is keeping the scale of these homes without becoming overscale and overmassive to the neighborhood. And unfortunately, the 2 homes across the street from you, we believe, were never approved or reviewed by this board because they were built prior to this board's existence. One of the reasons for this board's existence is to deal with this size, scale, and bulk issue. And the size, scale, and bulk issue are really three different things, although many people try to put it together, including some politicians, all into three. They really deal with scale, which has, in our case, because we're dealing with residential structures, has a lot more to do with the human scale than anything else in terms of the relationship of elements to the height of an average person. We have bulk, which is how big does this thing look? Regardless of the mathematics that is involved, it's the visual impact that it has on the neighborhood and of what we call the streetscape. And the streetscape is that view you look at as you look at the whole street. And the size, obviously, then we get into the issue of FARs, and that's why we have the FAR guidelines that allows this board to have a tool to weigh in on whether or not a property from a size standpoint may be too big. I know we've asked you to reduce your plate height, and I've heard your request and your reasoning why you wanted a larger plate height, but quite frankly, I think you can still get all that accommodated on the inside of your house. We've had several where we've asked folks to reduce their plate heights to get these houses down. If we were to review those houses on the other side of the street and the house that's two houses down from you, we probably would have done the same thing had the review board existed at that time. So I think we're there. With regards to the view issue, the city attorney has told us on several occasions, look, you can't guarantee anybody's view from anybody's window or anybody's backyard. We're here to review the public view corridor. And we've had occasion where we've had a couple of applicants come to us with very large homes, particularly out towards Montecito, where the property owners did in fact put into play legal view, what do they call them, Katie?
Easements.
Visual easement?
Visual easements, where they've actually been put in place. At this point, we haven't seen any of those happen in your neighborhood. So without that requirement, it's up to this board to make a determination whether the public view from the public right-of-way is being inhibited by construction of these homes. I understand, yes, the next door neighbors, one above, are going to lose some of their view from their kitchen window and from the other window. But in the realm of having to deal with these homes over the long haul, because these homes will be here a lot longer than the applicants, me, anybody else on this board, or even the neighbors. Time will change. The homes will have a little tougher time changing over a period of time. They will, they may. But our job is to look at not who lives in the homes now, but how do these homes behave in terms of compatibility of the nature of the neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to deal with. It's the neighborhood compatibility issue. Our decisions are all appealable directly to the city council. And the council did that because they knew that this board wasn't going to be in a position to deal with issues outside the physical confines of our review. We're architects, we're landscape designers, we all have expertise in certain fields of architecture. We're not a court of law, so we're not here to deal with arguments between owners about heights of location of plants or barking dogs or anything else. That's not our purview. That's why it goes, if it's an appeal, that's why it goes to city council. There they will do what they call a de novo hearing, and all things are off the table, and all the barking dog issues are on the table. So if people want to deal with that, this is not the body to do it. That can happen at city council. That's why the council put it in that position. So with that, I would agree with my colleagues that we're there. We should allow these folks to now continue with their project. I too am glad. I know you went through some expense to do the story polls, but I think for us having to see it out there on the ground was really important. Helps us make a good decision. I did notice that early on we had a lot of complaints from several folks. They didn't show up today. They didn't show up at the site. I assume they've seen the story polls because they've been there since last week. I know I went back Thursday and they were up. In just a moment. So with that, I would look for someone to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the project for design.
It's design approval.
Design approval.
Okay.
And.
Is it going to come back to the full board or to the consent calendar?
Does it need to come back? or
Well,
not?
for final, it has to
Final.
come back to one or the other.
Can we give it final today?
No, you
Oh,
don't.
no,
There's not enough- there's
okay.
not enough
No,
room.
I would say come back to consent.
Okay.
We don't
So
have
we're
a
gonna
set of
send to
plans.
consent.
Okay.
Okay.
And the board is,
So if you're going to give it approval, then you've got to read in all of the neighborhood compatibility issues.
okay. And with neighborhood preservation findings that it appears we have consistency and appearance for the project, compatibility, quality of architecture and materials, and good neighbor guidelines. That's my
Okay. Take your motion.
motion.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Katie, did we miss anything? No. Okay, so we have everything? Yes. Carl?
Two things. One is I just want to make sure, which I think we did last time, is the little, well, we used to have to go through the modification hearing, but we talked about that last time.
Katie, do we need to,
And
that
that's
should be
okay.
put in the motion, that the...
That didn't
casing-
require any sort of extra. That's now allowed by the new zoning.
Oh, okay, so
Right,
we didn't have to
exactly.
deal with it.
No
Okay.
extra
Right.
review.
Okay.
Okay. Your other item?
My other item,
You
I
said
can
two.
I can talk about after the motion.
Okay. Right? And that's the motion on the floor?
I seconded it.
And we got a second, and any further discussion of the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so carried. This project will have a 10-day appeal period to City Council. Yes, sir.
I think it would have been really helpful for us if we were going to go to story polls to have done that earlier in the process rather than wait to the point where we did. So I just want to throw that out there.
It's always, because we know this costs money, and it's difficult in a lot of cases. In your case, you had to deal with trying to make the whole thing look like from the roof, et cetera. We understand all of that. And we're always, so far, this board's been pretty reluctant to require people to do story polls, because we know it's difficult and expensive. Yeah, could we have done it early? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Where are we at? 5:30.
Yeah, well,
They were right on time.
Right on the money. Okay. Start for kickoff.
Where are we at? 4:30.
There's some of us that follow college football, and I'm missing
4:30. We made up 30 minutes.
the national championship. Okay. We're at 1306 Dover Hill Road. This is a new item, so I'm going to read into the record while the applicant's being seated. The project description, this is a proposal to install a new hill hiker, quote unquote, accessibility ramp along the west side of the existing multi-story single residential unit. There are no proposed alterations to the existing resident unit or the one-story accessory building located in the Hillside Design District. Staff hearing officer review is requested for the zoning modification request to allow the hill hiker to encroach within the required interior setback. This is here for comments only because this project requires staff hearing officer review. If you would introduce yourselves, please.
Amy Von Protz, designer.
Eric Nickel, homeowner, co-homeowner.
Michael Loftus, co-homeowner.
Okay, welcome. So if you could share with us what you're trying to do. Sure.
This project is at 1306 Dover Hill, and we were here a couple years ago, and we did a major addition in the front, and I don't know if you've been up there, but it's turned out amazingly well. And right now they're working on the landscape in the back, and the slope of the property is 43%, so just going up the driveway is a hike. And then in order to get from the driveway to the entryway, between here and all the way up here is something like 32 to 37 steps. So it's a hike just to get to the entry. So what we're asking for is there's such thing as called a hill hiker, and do you want to go ahead and tell them what a hill hiker is?
It's basically it's a device. It's a little platform tram that would start down here at the driveway level and make one stop here at this guest room and then one stop up at the living room level so that our elderly and disabled family members and friends can access the whole house, not
And
just.
planning for our future.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
none of us are getting any younger.
So this is all at grade level, and then the tram starts at the bottom and goes
So
up.
it's basically a
to the grade.
pit, which is behind a wall on the side of our house, and electric motor at the top, which is quieter than a refrigerator motor.
And again, this is all at, on grade, and basically what we're really here for is the pits to encase the,
The equipment.
The equipment, yeah. The tram itself is pretty small. It looks like there's a lot there, but a lot of that's underground, so.
do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
You have anything else you wanna add?
I think everything we said was in the letter that we sent.
Yeah.
With the application, so.
Did we have a,
That was for the modification itself.
okay.
So
And
that's not something you have.
That's going to the staff hearing officer. The
That's
staff
correct.
hearing officer, just to remind the board, we're here for comments only. The staff hearing officer wants to hear from us whether or not we feel that aesthetically and architecturally, is this an appropriate application to the property?
Right.
Okay, because the staff hearing officer will make the determination of whether or not it's allowed in the setback. Okay. Correct, Katie? Does that
That's
cover it?
correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Let me
thank
just
you.
ask one question on it. A staircase is allowed, correct?
Not necessarily unless it's on grade.
Which this would be.
This is on grade. Yeah, this is all on grade.
Well,
But
no,
this
no,
is
no, excuse me.
mechanical equipment in the setback, so.
Case for someone who can't use stairs.
No, no,
Right.
it's two different things.
Two different things,
Okay? The
okay?
staircase is in the ground,
Okay,
okay? This is above the ground, because the rail has to
gotcha.
be
Okay.
above the ground, so that's the
But
difference.
at ground
How far above the ground?
Like
Okay.
less than a foot.
All right.
Can I just say one other thing before you do your, there was a letter from the neighbor to the west, and we have, so the sign has been posted for some time because we got bumped because of the holidays, and we got bumped on a design review. Also, they did send out mailings, and they did have a meeting with her and her contractor and them and their contractor. We did have a meeting with them, so I was going to
Just to
address that.
clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, we have this one piece of correspondence,
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
okay, and has everyone had a chance to look at this?
No.
Okay, do you want to take a minute to read it?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Let's take a minute to read it, please.
This is her property right here.
Yeah.
Did you get a copy? Yeah.
And just to be clear on the drawing, it shows it extending past the front of the house.
Yeah, it
actually
does not.
begins behind that wall
So
right
this
there.
is not correct?
No.
Yeah, no, it begins behind a wall that
Thank you.
runs out from the side of the house. Yeah.
Okay, everyone had a chance to, where'd Robert go, he leave?
He had to recuse himself from the item because he did the landscaping for
Oh,
the
okay.
project in
Okay,
previous
thank you.
application.
Okay, thank you. Everyone had a chance to look at that letter? Okay, so we can address our comments to the letter, but let's go, if there's no one else, then the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Lisa, do you have questions?
I do. The letter we received from the neighbor cites that a sleeping area is within 10 to 15 feet of the transportation system, I measure the closest corner to the actual rail at around 20 and to the power pit at 25. So I'm wondering where that referred to area.
Not sure.
We don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've always measured it just like you did.
Yeah, just like you did.
Okay,
And
thank you.
The letter also indicated that no one had contacted her, but you just said so was a contact made when?
We sent the required mailing.
Yeah.
The sign is up, and we have contacted her several times.
And we met with her
So-
back,
So I just
September?
want to clarify, did you do a hand-delivered tenant notification because the city sends out the mailed notice?
Yes, the city sent out the mail notice.
So you didn't do the hand-delivered tenant notification?
We've never been required to do that.
You signed a notice and posting affidavit that you would, so that's
right,
part
well,
of the.
But my,
So sorry about
my
that.
question is, have you actually talked to this lady?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
on
And when did-
multiple
we met
occasions.
But when did you last do that?
September, October, right before your.
Yeah, we
Okay,
had a
well,
meeting
about
with her
this,
about this and the hedge because we
Because she's
took out.
indicating in this letter that it
Yeah,
never
We
occurred.
were confused by that.
We took out a
Okay,
disease
that-
hedge and
that's fine.
we told her about what the. we
I'm
were
just
gonna do
trying
for
to
the new
clarify.
hedge and the fence.
We told her that
and-
we planted the hedge
Okay.
from here to here, which she was great with, and we said, we'll finish when we finish the funicular, and she said, great.
Okay, so
And
she's
we're adding a new
indicating
fence.
that conversation didn't occur, you're
she
saying.
had
Okay,
forgot
thank
or
you.
something.
I just
Yep.
want to make clear where everybody is.
We were both present and our contractor was
Both her
present.
contractor was there and our contractor.
Okay. Other questions? I wanted the scale back, so- but maybe you can just, how wide is this set of rails? Oops, what's the scale here? 1 inch 10.
I think the rails themselves, it's a single rail that's.
Is it
like-
10 inches? I think it's,
Well, but you showed 2 rails, so what's the distance here?
yeah, I think maybe they're
I think it's 3 feet. I'm not.
from rail to rail. I
Yeah.
think that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
these, and more or less, how high does it sit up from this point off?
Once we grade it, it will be a foot or less off the.
So this is about 12 inches.
That should be, yeah.
Okay, and the source of any potential noise is
Be up
here?
down there.
Which is in a
The motor, or is the motor in the tram?
It's
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
top.
So, and this element is
That's
that a
the actual car where you
car?
sit.
So is that a glass element? What's?
We're gonna have it, we're doing an iron.
It's
to match
metal
our
with some
our
canvas around
Spanish
it.
out.
Does it
Okay,
make
so it's not going
noise?
to have glass in it?
No.
Does it make noise as it moves?
It's like it's kind of like a little refrigerator, just a little
No, I
hum.
know this
Yeah.
makes some
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
noise, but
Yeah.
does the track itself make
No.
noise?
There is no,
So
from
does the track has like a
materials we
chain
received
drive.
from the
So that-
manufacturer said.
So does it have a lubrication element on the
Yeah.
track? Because metal to metal is going to make noise.
Right.
Unless it's lubricated.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has some kind of required lubrication on the thing.
Yes.
Okay. And this would be similar to some of these that one would see walking at Hendry's Beach. If you walk down Hendry's Beach, there's a couple of these.
I think
Yeah,
that's
appear to
probably,
be
I
that
think
come
that's
down
correct.
the
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing.
And this is the premier company in the country that makes
Yeah.
these.
Okay.
They make them all over the Midwest, and there's
Okay.
a couple in Ventura.
And then the other question I had is, what does the landscaping look like? Do you have a landscape
We
plan?
don't have a landscape.
Katie, do we
It's a
have
hedge
the
all
other
the
set of
way-
drawings?
all
I
the
do
way
not,
on the-
because that's a separate project from
Okay,
this
so do
application.
we have landscaping in here?
Yeah, there's a podocarpus hedge that goes from here all the way down to here.
And is it on your property or is it?
It's on the line.
So it's right on the line and that's remaining?
That's,
It's brand new.
it's, yeah, we just,
We've
this
done it
section
at-
went in, and when we met with our neighbor, we told her we would finish this section
After
after the
we-
So the
funicular.
intention is plan, and was that on the approved plan that we gave you when we reviewed this?
Yes,
Yes.
on the landscape.
The landscape.
on the landscape
It was an
plan.
oleander hedge that was there that failed.
All right, so
So-
we approved a project here.
Yes.
That had landscaping here.
Yes, on the property line.
As well as a fence that goes all the way from the
And-
property line down to here.
And also in her
And
letter, she
typically-
said that it would go all the way to the property line, and it does not.
Okay,
just to
and typically, the height of this species grows to what?
We'll keep it sheared to around 8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Other questions? All right, let's go to comments. The staff hearing officer is going to be looking for our comments with relationship to compatibility and aesthetics.
Yeah, my only comment is the landscaping, how it would be kind of hidden.
I understand your concerns. It's a little unusual. I'm having a hard time visualizing its actual aesthetic impact.
Right, it's really not.
It's minimal
It's
because
very minimal.
Well,
we have a
excuse me.
large wall.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
That's your opinion.
Yeah.
We're
Oh, I thought
talking,
he asked the
the
question.
Well-
conversation is to us.
So I'm a little. I guess what I'm saying is I need a little more information regarding how you would handle the aesthetic, visual impact of how it is in that location.
Should I answer that? Is that a question?
Yeah, let us.
Regarding
It's a
landscape.
rhetorical question. Let us go to other comments.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What he said.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Joe, do you have comments? Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree, and no, it does have a visual impact, okay? You're going to see this from several places in the city. You may have to look at it very carefully to see where it is, et cetera, et cetera. So to make a statement that it doesn't have a visual impact is, in my opinion, not true. It does have a visual impact, but I think the ability to lessen the visual impact will be how you handle it with landscaping. We don't have that information. So, and we weren't able to pull the drawings today to see what we had approved last time. So I would like to see a document that shows what you're intending to do coupled with the landscaping. So we understand how high the hedge is going to be, you know, what's going to happen between here and the house, what material is that going to be, what is down here at the bottom to perhaps screen it from the road as because I was out there looking at the construction on Friday. So yeah, I want to see what I want to see, and I think that would relieve some of your concern.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not there yet. I need more information.
Right.
Other comments? Okay, then the chair would look for a motion and direction to the applicant. We can either say it's fine and have them move on to the staff hearing officer, or we can request additional information.
I'll make a motion.
Yes.
We'd like to move to continue this project with the following comments. We'd like to see a little more information with regards to the aesthetic impact in terms of the rail system, how you are more information like with regards to landscaping, how exactly the car that lands to the base, more detailing of that area. If possible, but not required, a 3D model would be great to kind of show how that would look. Like the more information we get, the better. We could make a more determined decision. That's my motion.
And would you like to continue it indefinitely to the full board or consent?
Yes, to the full board.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there further comments to the motion? Katie, the issue of the sound, the noise element, does that rest with us, or does that rest with the staff hearing officer?
That's a zoning issue.
That rests
So
with the
that's
staff
not
hearing
something
officer.
that- yeah.
Okay. That's the motion on the floor. Any further discussion of the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, so we'll see you back here when you're able to pull that additional information together. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll take this one.
Amy, did you get my message?
Yeah, you got my phone number.
Oh, I didn't have your,
I'll call you. Yeah, I got it.
you,
Okay. Oh, we're ahead.
Sorry, yes, I only need one.
Katie, we're 15 minutes ahead. Can we go ahead and, can we recess? Okay, we're going to take a brief recess. And if you're the next applicant, you can go ahead and come up, set up. We'll take about a 10-minute
John.
recess. Okay? No score. All right.
Checking the game?
Checking the game.
That's, I couldn't believe it. 6 o'clock.
Is it still raining out there?
No score, and there's 4 minutes left of the first quarter. First quarter.
My bride is a Georgia peach, and she's like, can't believe you're missing again.
Well, you won't know why I'm trying to watch it. Won't want to know. She wouldn't want to know why I'm trying to watch it.
Oh, no, we're roll tighter.
No, we're a Notre Dame family, so
Oh, okay.
we didn't like the fact that they beat us by 1 point
Right.
this year. Okay. All right, we got a few more minutes to wait.
State of emergency declared.
Within 5 minutes, is that it?
No, Katie said we needed to take a 10-minute break, so.
Just wanted to help everybody get oriented. You know where you are. You're easy to find. And then I've got Lars.
Too late. He left.
I think his mind's somewhere else. It's at the game.
I think you forgot that you can start with 15 minutes.
He might have gone home.
Fred.
Sorry, he had to watch it.
Very important.
Yes, this is priorities.
We lost him.
All these houses bring back great memories. When I was 9 years old, I was a paper boy to this house.
Really?
Oh, that's funny.
You can go, Fred.
What's that?
You can go.
We can go. I was just informed by upstairs that my mic was on, especially or Georgia. It says roof's off. Somebody's mic's on. Okay, Chair is going to bring back to order the January 8th Single Family Design Board. We're at a new item number 7, 2620 Samarkand Drive. I'll read into the record the project description. This is a proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 1,125 square foot, one-story single residential unit with an attached 221 square foot, one-car garage. Proposed project includes an interior remodel, a garage addition of 219 square feet, a first-floor addition of 558 square feet, and a second-story addition of 650 square feet. Other site improvements include a new 755 square foot roof deck, 170 square feet of a covered outdoor area, new fencing, and a new 24-foot by 12-foot swimming pool with a spa and a deck. Approximately 50 cubic yards of grading will occur on the site. The proposed total of 2,773 square feet. Development on an 11,092 square foot lot is 72% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. This is here for comments only because the project still requires an environmental assessment. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
Hello, my name is John Beecham, architect, and Joseph Leonard, the owner of the house. This is my girlfriend, Meredith.
If you could grow and you speak to the microphone, please.
Joseph Leonard, I'm the owner of the house, and Meredith Groden is my girlfriend.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. So if you could, this is a new project, so you could share with us what you're doing.
First, just one quick clarification. I guess there was a question mark about the notice, the yellow
Yes.
notice board, and we have had that. It's on the side of the sidewalk, and occasionally there's cars parked in front, so potentially maybe it just wasn't seen, but we did get that posted.
That was probably me, because I go out and check, and I didn't see it, so it could have been that I just
Yeah, no,
didn't
it's
see it.
not a problem. I just want to make sure it's clear. Excuse me. The project is located at 2620 Samarkand. So this is Samarkand Drive. Here's the project. It's on the east side of Samarkand. And all the lots through here are quite deep. So that's where you got that 11,000 square foot lot size. This is our project site. Here's an enlarged version of the same. So we have a single car garage, and then a two-bedroom home here. Our proposal is to do that two-car garage in the front and then extend out the single-story addition here. And then above the garage is a two-story, it's a second story for a master suite. This kind of help you get oriented, like so the front of the house. There's a little projected out dining area currently, a little entry porch, and there's a single car garage just step back from that. So I'm going to use that to help us get oriented on the plan right quick. So this is Samarkand Drive. This is the existing footprint of the house. And again, here's the little single car garage, the home, and this was a little extension off the back. This is our proposed work. We've included the outline again of the original home, so you can see where that is in comparison to the new work. So this portion will be remodeled. This is our single-story addition off the back, be a kitchen, living, dining wing adjacent to the pool. And then we're pulling in a two-car garage towards the front. That allows us to take the existing garage out of the setback. We're not looking to try to rebuild in that setback area. So that was one nice element we could do. And what you'll see here, this, just to help you get oriented, that's that little bay window portion that's inside the front setback, that again, we're pulling that out of that setback area. In plan, orientation, so you see this dash line of the demo line would be that bay window area, and the single car garage is back here. So we'll have a two-car garage up front. The entry's in the about the same place it is now, only we're going to reorient it towards the street instead of on the side. Then we'll have the existing bedroom, existing family room area stay, existing bath. But we're going to add onto the back of the house, dining, kitchen, living. You'll see the deck and pool orientation. Then we'll allow our two-car garage with a laundry behind that. And this is our covered outdoor area where we have an outdoor kitchen that's enclosed from the deck above. The interior stairs are here that lead to the master suite addition. And this is a portion over the garage. So what we have master suite, master bath, closet. This is a sun deck that we're proposing over the this first floor wing of the addition. The reason we're proposing this and would like to have it is be a nice addition to the home for everyday living in with the mountain views. But the one other aspect is because of the lots are very deep, but they're not exceptionally wide. And so the pool, this is outline of the pool below, there's not an area to be able to just set up deck chairs, things like that, that would not become shaded from neighboring landscape. And there's not enough space without getting into the setback to have deck space over here. So we'd like to propose that up here where it's more of kind of our area for the lounge chairs to be in the sun, to enjoy that. But the focus is into here. That focus is made with, this is a low wall that wraps around. So we have our 6-foot setback, and then we've stepped this portion back an additional 7'4". To help with privacy, because it's going to be a concern. Anytime anyone hears the word roof deck, everyone gets excited. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to be careful with that and sensitive and layer that back, step it back, so that your sight lines are as controlled as they can be. One other aspect of this is, you'll see this call out should really hit here and this one to here, but what we have is we're stepping this facade back as well. So we're trying to break this up so none of us want a 2-story, vertical wall just straight up on the front of the house. So we're layering that with you're seeing the roof of the garage below. stepping this wall back. Again, and that'll make sense, I'll explain that when we get to elevation, but it's, just take note of how this portion's been stepped back here. Our roof plans. So again, this is a roof over the second story portion, roof over the first story portion. I'm sorry, single story portion. So here's the street front elevation. So this is our current entry location. It's just currently you come up on the sidewalk and then you turn to go in. We're placing that front door on the front facade now. So here's our entry. This is the little covered patio porch that stays. Our two-car garage stall, master suite above. And this is the portion where we've stepped these pieces back so it's not a frontal two-story on the street front. What I want to point out is this dashed line shows us this ridge line. So this current ridge is back here. That's this dashed line. This is representing it. So what we've done is the typical solution is you take that gable roof, you have a second story, you mirror that gable roof, and it's just kind of a matched set as it stacks up. We don't really want that for this location on this house. So what we've done, well, again, because of the heights, it just gets too tall. And so what we're showing you here is we're inverting that roof, make it more of a butterfly roof on the inside. That allows us to not have a gable that's another 6 feet higher. And this line, again, represents that existing ridge. So our difference, our net difference is 5'10". So we've been able to get a second floor addition on here, and our additional height from what you see existing is less than 6 feet. So we felt that was a good plus for us as far as how to get a second story without it feeling too big for this neighborhood, this scale. What we're proposing to do, why it's dashed, is because we're going to take that line down. All the wall framing stays, but we're proposing to take that gable 2x4 roof framing down. We'd have to reinforce this thing anyway, so we're proposing to take that down and put a 1 in 12 pitch slope on that. So that allows us to lower this height to help balance with some of the scale of this one. Here's our 30-degree slope study up here, so that roof is stepped back so we are within that slope. And this line represents our 30-foot height that's allowable. And we would be much closer to that if we kind of did the standard stack gable. And this shows us in profile. This is our existing front porch, so that part stays. And this is where we're able to start to now step this front facade back. This is the parapet that you see here over the entry. This line represents this back face, and this line is the face of the master bathroom wall. This is the dining room, kitchen, living room of that single-story addition extending out towards the back. This is the direct view from the east. So here's again, the second-story portion. These are the stairs that would go up to that roof deck, and these are stairs that would go down further down into the site. This outline shows you where the pool is to help get oriented on that. This would be the south facade facing the pool. So we have, again, dining, kitchen, living room space here. And this is the master above. This one just has a projection window, but we're limiting the amount of glazing on this side, mainly because you've got a garage here, so we don't need that portion. In section that help us see the scale of things. This is a section through the entry, then the stairs going up to the second floor. So again, this helps see the roof lines and the stepping of that front facade. This is the roof deck portion. So we wanted to show this. This is our solid wall on the back of that. The intent here again would be more your deck chairs, your lounge chair portion. We would like to extend this higher, but at that point we get to that 30-degree solar portion. We start to cast a shadow onto the neighbors. We've met with all the neighbors. We were not able to speak directly with the two neighbors in the far back of the lot, but we've met all around. Everyone around. This is the property that would have potentially the most concern with a roof deck. It's tough because sure we could put a big wall up there, but now we're into that portion where we're casting shadows. The reality of this home, I think if you had a chance to drive by, you see it's on just a slight rise, and everything else is lower, and every house here slopes away. The street is the high point of the whole area. So this set of houses are exactly the same as these, where if you stood on a chair, you can see in someone's backyard. It's just the nature of how the siting of all these homes are. So this has been a concern, and we've met with the tenants of this house and spoken with them at length. And of course, the privacy concerns. We've met with this owner and showed them how the existing landscaping protects those privacy concerns. But again, if that's just the part with the roof deck that I'm sure you're interested in. And I can answer questions if you have them.
Okay, so that's all you have to present?
Yes.
Okay. All right, before we go to discussion from the board, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Oops, I have a couple of speakers. And Katie, did we get any written comment?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do I have, oops, I guess it's one. Helen Berkeley Meigs? If you'd come up and use this chair, please. And you have 2 minutes to address the board. If you'd speak into the microphone, please.
Is it on? Yep. I am the owner of 2624 Samarkand, the immediate neighbor to the north. And this property's been in my family for about 40 years. It's currently occupied by a family with a 3-year-old daughter. The City of Santa Barbara has established single-family residence guidelines, which are codified in City of Santa Barbara ordinances SBMC 226920 regarding neighborhood compatibility. When a change is made in an established neighborhood, this is a quote, "It is essential to properly balance that change with respect for the design features and characteristics of surrounding properties. Homes are more likely to be compatible when their volume and bulk are at an appropriate scale with their neighbors. This is the concept of neighborhood compatibility. New and remodeled houses can maintain a desirable living environment when they have an appropriate volume, bulk, massing, and scale, have a size that is not significantly larger than the immediate neighborhood, use materials and designs that are compatible with their surroundings and are sited such as they do not block light and views for existing homes and minimize privacy impacts for surrounding properties." As I say, this comes from the residential guidelines for the city. This extensive remodel, which would well more than double the size of the current property, would make the proposed house the only 2-story on the block. Its scale and the contemporary flat roof design do not blend with the 1-story traditional style of the other homes on the block. There is a history and an ambience to this neighborhood and to this block that we believe should be preserved. These lots are unusually deep, so that the enlargement of the property in question could be accomplished without creating a second story. The second-story deck shown in these preliminary plans would adversely affect the quality of life for the residents of my property. People on the proposed deck would be able to look directly into our master bedroom, our kitchen, our backyard, and our patio. This invasion of privacy is totally unacceptable to us, and the noise factor from activities on this large deck would negatively affect the peaceful existence that our family now enjoys. With a young child, much of their activity is on their back patio. We strongly urge our neighbors and their architect to consider a one-story model, which we would certainly support. Any proposed two-story model would require extensive mitigation.
You could wrap up. You have 2 minutes.
This is my last sentence.
Okay, thank you.
Any proposed two-story remodel would require extensive mitigation of the aspects of the proposed plans that we've described, as these plans would be destructive to the quality of life of our tenants currently enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak to this project? Kenny, no other written, correct?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions? So if I understand this correctly, this house is dropping down to, it looks like 220?
This point right here. That's
That
the low
point,
point.
do we know what the low point is? There's 217.
216.
218, 217. So that might be 216 maybe. And the finished floor is at what elevation? Do you know?
I think we're at 231.
231? Okay.
230.
And so if I'm reading your elevations correctly, I get to them. So this is 231, and if I'm scaling this correct, then the sill height of this first floor is at something above 8 feet, 8'6" perhaps. It's not clear where the
8'3".
8'3". And then this plate height appears to be almost 10 feet. If that's the second floor, 10 feet from the second floor level, correct?
I think we have it here. Oh, I gave an overall.
Okay. Right.
That's
Okay,
correct.
And then this is a set of steps coming down to the lower portion of the garden. This is the staircase going up to that deck, and the pool, I thought I saw a drawing, is in here somewhere, right?
Correct.
So it's sitting in here. So there's a kind of a retaining wall at this end of the pool, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have a ceiling, is it true you have a ceiling height here of 12 foot 1 1/4?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Please.
All right, any other questions? Comments?
Comments. I'm not opposed to different designs, but if you're going to come up with a different design, which is, you need to show us some elevations that emphasize that design. In other words, instead of just lines that change all surfaces, give us some shadows, give us something that shows, because
we have that.
this doesn't help you any.
2D.
It's
Does
too,
this. The
okay.
reason we didn't show is I have one little change on that height we didn't feel was right, but it's actually, we're showing just a hair higher than it actually is, but if that helps explain that depth.
Okay.
Other comments?
Yeah, I have some.
Yes.
I can't support this project. It's an established neighborhood, and everything about it is kind of contradictory to what we stand for. All the roofs, all the homes have standard gable roofs. You're adding a whole different vernacular. I think I cannot support the roof deck. I think the plate heights are way too high. I think you really need to be a little more sympathetic with the already established nuances or the fabric of the neighborhood, and this doesn't do it. So I can't support the project in its current design style. Those are my comments.
Other comments? Yes, Lisa.
I feel that the roof heights are way higher than they need to be, and I agree with Brian that this is one of those special neighborhoods in Santa Barbara that is well established, and I'd like to see it preserved that way. That's it.
Anyone else?
I'll make the comment that I'm not opposed to that style of architecture, but I just don't know the context of the neighboring homes so well. I mean, are there other two-story homes that are similar to this at all in the area? Or?
I have a set of images here that show other, there's a lot of
Two-story homes. I mean, it is a different style of architecture. I'll say it's different than what's going on, but I'm not completely opposed to the style, but maybe you could be a little more sympathetic to what's going on around in the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay, no, the discussion is to a board. Make a note, and I'll allow you to speak at the end of our discussion. Yes, this, I agree with my colleagues. This is not appropriate to this neighborhood, period. You know, one of the struggles we have on this board is trying to make sure that we meet the neighborhood compatibility issue, both from a size, scale, and bulk issue, from a streetscape issue, et cetera. The only thing this project might meet is the size, given the fact that the FAR is appropriate. But the scale and the bulk is not appropriate. The proportions are not even approaching acceptable. The proportions of where the windows sit with relationship to eaves, et cetera. As pointed out earlier, Samarkand was built in an era where roofs, eaves, et cetera, were all done in a very similar fashion. This contemporary design is not sympathetic to that at all. I could certainly see a contemporary approach if that's the choice and avenue you want to go, but this is not it. I think it needs to have sloping roofs. I think it needs to have proportions and scale that's appropriate to the neighborhood. 10-foot floor-to-floor heights, 12-foot floor-to-floor, 13 feet, they're not acceptable. The whole scale of this thing is way too big. The bulk is boxy. It's not appropriate, and I certainly am not going to support a second floor deck of that size at all, period. The staircase at the back is going to be obvious to other neighbors. The scale of the deck, the roof is inappropriate. The size is way too big. I think this just needs a whole lot more work before I could even think about dealing with an acceptable approach. So I would encourage the designer to go back and work with his client to come up with a design that's much more compatible to the Samarkand neighborhood. There is a house, I think it's further down on Samarkand Drive, that this board may have approved with a burnt orange or burnt red standing seam roof.
across the street.
And I would have just, in hindsight, said we should have never allowed that if this board in fact did approve it. That's what I don't think we want to see in this neighborhood. We've had a real struggle with a few around the block. We've just reviewed, I think, 1, 2, 3, a couple of streets up, where we've had to deal with the same issue of overscaled plate heights, bulky design approaches. Those weren't contemporary in nature. So this has a long ways to go before I think I could even address it. So, with there's no further comments, the applicant needs some direction. It's here for comments only. Katie, the environmental assessment still has to be accomplished,
That's
correct?
correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So the chair would look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make the following comments. The board cannot support the current design of this style of the home because of the already established style of the neighborhood, and would request that the designer look at re-examining the overall size bulk of the structure and the style of the architecture that is a little more sympathetic to the fabric of the neighborhood. The board cannot support a second-story deck of this size. The board cannot support a backyard exterior stairway. Overall, the board feels that this general style of house is perhaps not appropriate for this already established neighborhoods. Yeah.
Would the maker of motion also include direction to the applicant that when they do return, that we're going to want to see a concept level landscape plan that's integrated with the proposed architecture?
Yes, we'd like a concept level landscape plan integrated with the architecture. Oh, yeah, that's it.
So that's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
So it was continued indefinitely back to the full board.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, that's the motion. Is there further discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. So we'll see you back here when you've had a chance to restudy.
I said I had a chance to ask you a question.
Yes.
So, you know, the context of this neighborhood is also post-war. This particular area, these homes are turning over. The neighborhood is.
Fully aware of that.
We are aware of that. As I mentioned.
How does that, so is the goal of the board to maintain this 1950s, you know,
No.
time capsule?
No.
You didn't listen.
You weren't listening.
Well, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just asking that.
No,
in
we're
general.
not proposing that. We're saying you need to look at the bulk and scale of this project with its relationship to the other homes in this neighborhood and the general direction they take. You need to go out and look and walk this neighborhood. This is not, and I think you've heard it loud and clear from this board, this is not an acceptable approach, okay? We're not saying we're not in favor of a contemporary approach, but this isn't it, okay?
Understood.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're down to our last item. So we're at 758 Juanita Avenue.
John, you can take the other two seconds if I have a white on this side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
Okay, this is a new item, so I'm going to read in, as the applicants are settling in, I'm going to read into the record. Project description is presented. It's a proposal to construct a 914 square foot addition to an existing 1,145 square foot single residential unit with a 406 square foot attached garage. Proposed project also includes an interior remodel of 1,205 square feet, a new garage door, and a new stone veneer chimney. The proposed total of 2,465 square feet of development on a 13,242 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 60% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. Staff hearing officer review is requested to allow the residential addition to encroach in the required interior setback. This is here for comments only. Project requires staff hearing officer review. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, my name's Tony Zcase. I'm the designer. This is Cliff Hubbard, the owner of the property. I don't know, some of you might have seen this before. This has been through here a couple times. We finally got approval in June of last year, maybe, for a second-story addition onto this. I have those plans with me. If you want to look at
From
them.
this board?
From this board.
Okay.
So this might be familiar to some of you on the board. After getting our permit and going into the construction phase, we realized that the numbers weren't quite working out for us, so we decided to kind of scale it down, keeping all the same details and materials and colors and so on, and just make it into a one-story addition, all at the back of the property. And to break up this roof line, there's a big a ridge here. We wanted to bump this up a little bit to break up that ridge a little. After we designed it, we were kind of looking at, he went and measured this distance from the house to the property line, and it was getting kind of close. We had it surveyed and realized that this wall line encroaches into the side setback by 5 to 7
About
inches.
3 to 4 inches, actually.
4 inches. We kind of explored just kind of bumping this over a little bit, and I thought that would look kind of awkward. We thought we could maybe just get a pass-through for getting a modification, but because of the extra height here, we are forced to go to the show, staff hearing officer. So we were looking for positive comments tonight to take to the staff hearing officer for a bond hearing.
So if you could show us the
Sure.
elevations, please.
So, well, these shaded areas are vaulted areas that we're gonna have in there. So there's our addition back here, and again, we want to continue this wall line, which is driving us to go to the staff hearing officer. But the overall addition at the back of the property, so this is the street side, and this is the addition back here. So this is going to pop up a little bit, and what that does for us, it kind of breaks up this long ridge line. From the street, you wouldn't really see that at all. And I think part of the project was to replace that garage door, which is an existing condition now. And so, yeah, we want to keep it all on one floor, keep the costs down, and use the same materials that we had approved from before, and this is all still valid. So really, visually, the street elevation wouldn't change because it's too far back to see from way out here.
We're a little bit elevated above the street here.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that does it for a presentation. But I like if you want to see what was approved before.
It's site plan.
We're going to go to the second story, for the previous version.
Okay.
So that
we approved that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't actually get permits, but we got up to where we could have given
A lot of
some
money.
money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
have gotten the permits.
Okay. Okay. Katie, this is one of the ones I questioned about signs. Did this require a sign?
Yes, it did, and I sent an email to the applicant, but I didn't hear back.
Went by the property, you don't have, I couldn't find or see your notification
sign?
sign. Yellow
I
sign.
apologize for that. We just got back from vacation Sunday
make
morning.
sure
It
you
is,
get it in.
has been posted Sunday, today.
Okay. Okay, anything else to present? No. Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, did we get any written correspondence?
No, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions. Anyone have questions? Katie, so the issue is the 3 to 4 inches and the fact that the elevation is going up high. That's all that the staff.
Encroaching into the required interior setbacks.
Okay, so that's all the staff hearing officer is going to look at? Okay. And as the applicants requested, they're looking for positive comments.
Oh, I questioned the garage door. What kind of a style garage door?
We haven't really got that far yet.
I could leave the garage door as it is if you'd like.
Oh, I
and
don't, I'm
it's-
just asking.
Yeah, but I'm,
We might have it listed on the materials call-outs here.
New
earlier.
garage door by owner.
Is that mentioned over here somewhere?
No.
No.
if If we keep it intact during construction, it'll probably stay, it's fine.
I see. Okay.
And then one of the questions I had is we're also approving a new veneer on the existing fireplace, correct?
Right.
And does it get a new?
Cap up there?
Yeah, because that, if what I'm looking at is there, probably doesn't meet the code.
The fireplace is going to be removed. The existing wood-burning fireplace will be removed, and we're going to put in a new gas.
Okay, then you don't need the. You don't
Right,
need
that's just for
okay,
show.
Gotcha. Okay. Then you don't need the smoke.
What is being,
Okay.
floor plan?
So this is the existing.
I'll go back to the floor plan.
Oh, yeah, that's the floor plan. They're adding, what is being added? 2 bedrooms.
Here.
2 baths, 2 bedrooms and 2, no.
And here.
Yeah, that little sliver here.
A little sliver.
You're accurate with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
That's being additional. And they
So
have to
it
go to
is,
staffing
right
officer.
now, it's only a 2-bedroom,
Right.
1 bath.
It's 3-bedroom.
Well, you're turning the laundry into,
1, 2,
This,
3.
the
Gotcha.
existing is that, to get this hallway back here,
You
we're
took out
taking
that. Yep.
bedroom 3.
Okay. Okay.
These vaults are existing. All of these vaults are existing.
Other questions?
No.
In the previous project, did you have a required landscape plan? Did we approve a landscape plan?
We did, and we intend to keep that same landscape plan. I think we came out a little further, so this might impact some of the landscaping here, but we're prepared to bring in a revised landscape plan when the time comes.
The landscape was all to the front. This is existing ice plant on a hill.
Okay.
And we have our stormwater
Just got this
Under review.
tentatively approved by Creeks.
So you'll be doing stormwater?
Tier 3.
Tier 3. Tier 3. Okay. Other questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, let's go to comments. The applicant's looking for comments so that they can proceed to the staff hearing officer.
A pretty modest addition. I think its size, bulk, and scale and style is totally appropriate, and you've really cut back on that. And consider what was previously approved. I can support it. So you're probably anxious to get started.
Very.
Okay. Other comments?
I agree. I support the project. I think it seems to be a lot scaled down from what you brought out there, so it's probably a bit more appropriate in my opinion. So.
if they come back, can we have kind of the 2 projects, or are we limited it to seeing just this and not seeing what was approved before?
You can look at the drawings if you want.
Yeah, it should be on file.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a.
He's going to marry back the landscape plan to some degree to this new addition.
We basically were putting 1,000 square foot master bedroom suite above this
That's what I was approved before.
with a deck out over this
So
area.
from the front, this was what you were going to see.
Right.
And today, that's,
Very simple. It's just the same thing with
right.
the building hidden behind it.
Yeah.
It's very modest. I don't have any problems with it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then the chair would look for a motion for language to go to the staff hearing officer. Okay.
The board would like to give this project positive comments to continue on to the staff hearing officer in order to get the modification of the 3 to 4 inch wall encroachment on the northwest side of the property.
Can you elaborate more specifically if it's aesthetically appropriate?
Yes, and we find that the scaled back addition is definitely in keeping with size, bulk, and scale, and is modest and appropriate to the neighborhood.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Okay. Is there further discussion of the motion?
Where is it returning back to the full board?
Yeah. Full board or consent calendar?
To the full board.
Okay. So the motion is to the full board. Is there further discussion to the motion? Is that acceptable to the seconder? Who seconded?
Second.
May I suggest maybe consent?
We don't need a full set of,
Well, they would do that at the
Got
consent.
tier 3 and all that out.
Oh, okay, full board, sorry.
All right.
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Okay.
All right, so full board as agreed to by the seconder of the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. We will see you back after you get to the staff hearing officer.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Seeing no further business before the board, the chair adjourns the January 8th Single Family Design Board.